Oh my God, it's been way too long since this microphone's been in front of my face. This camera's been on. It's been way too long. We've exchanged guests. We have an even better guest now. And everything is going better. And it's Wednesday and it's Tuesday and it's supposed to be Sunday. And this is Real Men Talk Shit. How the hell are you? We got Josh Smith with us as always, and we have Wendigoon back.
It's Tuesday. It's supposed to be Sunday. How the hell are you guys? That's one for the ages. I like that. And I'm doing great. Had a great day.
All right. RMTS is brought to you by Toner Microphones. All three of us are using it. It's a great microphone. We all love it. We have the TC40s, which is the mic that we are all using, and you can order with a click of a button with the link in the description and probably in the chat now. Zach will post that. I've gotten more compliments from this mic than using a mic triple the price, and it really is a great, easy to set up. You set it up with one click as Zach disappears.
Bye, Zach.
It's plug and play, super easy. Has a mute feature, has a digital digital gain, and it's a great price with great sound. And we'd like to thank them for supporting the show. Thank you, Toner.
Thank you very much, Toner. That's what I think Zach had to close his camera for a second. He was going to order another one just in case.
Exactly. I had to make sure that I had one. No, it told me I had a new tab open. So I was like, wait, what the fuck? Tab is open. So I fucking closed it real quick and it ended up being this. I don't know why it was showing up as a new tab.
Welcome, Isaiah. Yeah, we called you that on PK.
Yeah, you're good.
Name leak? Oh shit.
Okay. No, you didn't dox me or reveal my secret identity or anything. Yeah, Isaiah, Wendigoon, whatever. Happy to be here, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Glad to have you, man.
How's it been going, brother?
All of us have been checking out your content and really digging it.
Very cool, very cool. I'm glad that you like it, my man. I actually, after the PKA episode, I went and I checked out your stuff because I'm like, I gotta know about this guy. So the first thing I did was watch the PK episode that you were on the first time.
Good start.
And then like some of your content and stuff. So I'm also enjoying your stuff. So very cool.
Thank you, man. It's a little bit different, to say the least, at least for a gamer, probably. But
I like different. I got
gaming with a little prison spice mixed on top. You know, the little dash of prison on top. Some little handcuffs chained in there.
Make it a little kinky, right?
Yeah, just a little kinky.
Everything isn't kinky. Then what the hell are you doing?
I can't think of anything less kinky than prison. At least for me. I mean, for some guys, some dudes is about as kinky as you can get.
Josh, I've got bad news for you.
Oh God! Luckily, I'm off probation now. I don't have to worry about going back anymore.
Yeah,
no more.
Yeah, I remember. It was really funny for me because, like, I'll be honest, I didn't know you before that first PKA episode because
as he spills his Mountain Dew.
I did spill my Mountain Dew one moment. You sure? All right, thank you. My wonderful girlfriend is taking care of it. Love you. All right. I'm a disaster. I got lights. It's dark in here and everything else. What I was saying is, thank you. I appreciate it. On the first time me and you talked, that was the first time I'd ever heard of you. So we're just casually talking, whatever. We're like 2 hours in. You're like, yeah, I remember that in prison. And I was like, what the heck?
It slips out eventually.
Yeah, it just came out. And you're like, oh, I said some words in an online game. I was like, what?
The only reason anybody's ever heard of me other than my parents.
Yeah, that's the reason I stopped the convo and was like, dude, am I the only one here who's not in the know about? And turns out I was. But
it happens often. Don't worry. I think every time that we've had a guest so far on here, but since we've already met now, we got the that hasn't happened.
Right, yeah,
every other guest
on
here was like, wait, hold up, and I always have to be like, it kind of has to have to strike this balance because it'd be arrogant of me to be like, you should check it out first or something. But at the same time, I don't want to make the podcast about me. It needs to be about them. But we're gonna hit it eventually.
You got to do the TLDR.
It's a bit of a big deal.
I haven't been out long enough yet to like go through 2 to 3 hours of conversation without referencing something from that many years.
Understandable.
Period.
That's fair. That's fair.
The reference is enough yet, but we'll get there. I think we'll get there. But in the meantime, everybody's like, wait. This little fucking beaver in the feds, huh? Yeah, you play guitar too, huh? Oh, I bet they love doing it. Huh?
On the bright side, you're actually able to have a conversation, and every single story you lead back to isn't about jail.
That's true. It was the first
Yeah.
few months. But like I said, it's a process of phasing it out. You know, I have more life experiences to draw on now. So it's ebbing and flowing, you know.
Well, I was a
Sometimes
co-host
I'm in a prison mood. I just wake up and I choose violence, you know.
on-
Just kidding, FBI. Just kidding, FBI. Fucking kidding. I never choose violence.
And
co-host
Josh is
on-
going back.
Yeah. Blue team go. It is on the way. It is on the way. Blue team go.
I was a co-host on Mark from 60 Days In podcast, and he had his brother-in-law as one of the co-hosts too. And every single story he told was like, well, when I was in jail, I was like, man, understand that, yes, it's a part of your life, but it's not all of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell stories that aren't just about when you were in jail. Like, you're more of a person than that. You're a better person than that. Don't subject yourself as only being chastised or looked at as the jail dude, because then you're going to be looked at as a piece of shit. You're going to be looked at as an asshole because you're portraying yourself as the only thing that you're worth is jail, and you're not. And I say
agree.
the same thing to you. Like, unless you portray yourself as being only one specific thing, you're a much more broad person than that.
I understand. Absolutely. You don't want to pigeonhole, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen YouTube channels, especially when they fail to adapt or to ever branch out, you know, after a while, it seems like. Now, I mean, that's not always true because some people got it, man. Like Lockdown 23-1, he's my friend. And I think that he's been crushing that game for a very, very long time. But then you look at other people's numbers and they fizzle out. That's kind of why I've been trying to branch out, less RuneScape in prison and more like, you know, let's have an overall positive message and hang out and make friends.
Less RuneScape in prison.
I mean, RuneScape's a digital
Two things
prison and
he's
then
known
prison's
for.
real prison. So, like, I'm over here just peddling prison all the time, man. I need some positivity in my life. You know? It's like, either way you look with Josh, you're getting fucking handcuffs or prison or feds or marshals or something. It just never stops. So, I'm trying to do a little bit more Minecraft.
And it's not even kinky in the good way.
No, it's not even as bad. Like, the handcuffs are just terrible. And you can't even move your body. Like, it's shackled.
And they're not even fuzzy.
There's nothing sexy about
They're
it.
not even fuzzy.
They're not even remotely fuzzy. And they intentionally put the shackles too tight on your ankles so you can't run. And there's like a foot gap between them. And I mean, if kinky is gnarly blisters on your ankles that last literally a month from going up a 4-story flight of stairs with them on, yeah, it's real kinky, baby. Yeah, fire it
The
up.
question was when you were bigger, did they put the zip cuffs on you?
The closest that I've ever seen to that is that when dudes' hands like literally can't go behind their back all the way because they're so big, they'll just clip 2 handcuffs together. They'll cuff like so and then do that. And I've not seen them have to do that around because when you're getting on the Fed plane, when you're getting on Con Air, they've got some XL handcuffs and body chains and all that good stuff. They got it ready to go. They got the Hannibal Lecter mask for the biters and the spitters, and they got the black box where they got to keep their hands up because they'll scratch people. And yeah, it's a good regular shit show. And I'm just sitting there like, hey guys, hey.
You were on
I got some 90
play?
Slayer on RuneScape one time. Hey. You guys like Vine? No, I'm just kidding. I'd never heard of Vine. I was like, anybody like YouTube? You guys like Smosh? Pokemon? Anybody? Yeah.
He's on this plane full of killers, and he's like, "You want to catch the new David Dobrik video?"
Yeah. Anybody like the Vlog Squad? Anybody been keeping them lately? Nah, we were all equals on that motherfucking plane because as soon as that thing took off the ground, all these dudes with these like daggers tatted on their faces and this new, oh yeah, I'm a killer, getting on this plane and shit, and that thing took off and everybody on there was like,
Really?
Oh yeah, everybody. As soon as we got up in the sky, we were all dude. It was rattling like this, and I don't know. I've only been on a plane. I recently went to Disney, and other than that, that was my first and only time on an airplane. And it was very rattly and shaky and scary, and I didn't like it. But we all landed safely, obviously, because I'm here to tell.
Those Con Air planes are sketchy. I used to work at airports, and like I didn't work with the Con Air planes, but I'd see them like land down and get marshaled in and stuff, and they were not the best taken care of planes.
Yeah, I've been told. I don't know if it's true or not that they're confiscated from drug dealers and stuff. The feds take over.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, the reason that this plane is so shaky is because one of those engines isn't an engine; it's cocaine. So it's just a big wad of blow out there. So that's the reason we're having a little turbulence over Texas right now.
You know, that kind of makes sense because, like, I know a bunch of local departments. What they'll do is if there's a car that is like been abandoned on the side of the road, or they've taken it on a drone, whatever, they have possession of a car, they will just turn that into an unmarked vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So I guess that scales up. So the Fed's still jets, it like
exactly.
the two balance out. Yeah,
They're doing bigger shit. They got some yachts,
Yeah. You can take
the blue lights on a yacht. Like hold there for 15 minutes. We will be there.
That's
soon.
the reason. Yeah,
There we
those
go, yep.
things.
Yep.
That was the reason they were so determined to get Escobar.
What is that?
Oh yeah.
That's a Con airplane.
That's not the one that. Oh God, that's
No,
what
they have a bunch of
on.
different types. Like,
Oh, that made me shiver. I thought I'd
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, you
Holy
just said in
shit.
the floor of that.
One thing that did
that's
scare
all you
me
that
got.
looks like an old cargo plane.
I'm glad that I have like at least somewhat like I'm not the smartest dude. I'm glad that I could figure shit out because I remember riding on the plane and the dude next to me was like, "Man, the wings are flapping. The wings are flapping." I look out and sure enough, you can see that the plane's wings were moving up and down a little bit. I was like, "Oh my God, this thing's gonna break in half!" And that's when I realized if it didn't move, it probably would break in half. It's
Yeah.
probably got to
Right,
have
yeah.
flexibility.
Yeah,
And I
that's
was
a
like,
normal thing.
we're flying through the air at several hundred. It's probably has to have some give. And I was like,
Mhm.
hey, man, I'm pretty sure that's normal. He's like, no, it ain't. I read 1,000 airplanes. I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Inmates. You can't tell them fucking anything. You can't tell an inmate a thing. You can't tell them that, no, you can't use my World Almanac to see if Jennifer Lopez got an ass reduction or not. It's not in there. Trust me.
Josh was up there. There's like this big like convict like killed 20 people freaking out. Josh was like, well, actually,
As a matter of
turbulence
fact.
parts, you have to bend, and then it became kinky really quick for Josh
Oh,
on
yeah.
that plane.
Whether I liked it or not, all of a sudden the person's face got a bait. No,
Unfortunately,
Right
that was
there.
one that didn't have a mask on.
And that is how I joined the Mile High Club, everyone.
Josh was like,
God.
on that day, the hole in
On
my
that
guitar
day.
wasn't the only hole with a guitar pick dropped in it.
my guitar was
Oh
jelly.
no.
No, for real though, they're so bad about the possibility of perverts on the planes that when the women are getting on the plane, they come on there and they're like, do not put your head, foot, arm, chain in the aisle. Do not spit. Do not ask questions. Don't sniff them. Don't lean out. Like,
Oh my God.
don't. Like,
Wow.
so many. Like, it was like, and if you do any of these things, you'll receive a 100 series shot at your next prison, which is like the maximum series punishment. You know, and you lose 52 days of good time. You got to do more prison time and all this. Like, I can't even remember the requests that they made, but they were so oddly specific. And you know that some weird fuck out there, like, who spit on one? Like, some dude's girl just snitched on him. He just sees a woman. Like, his girlfriend just testified against him. He just sees a woman. He's like, why do you have
Just
to tell
start-
us this shit?
Everyone just starts barking as they're walking inside.
So sure enough, the next time we take off, and no barking as well. Didn't say no fucking barking. We got your asses this time.
No barking, growling, or yeehaws.
They keep
Yeah,
a
no,
running
that's all
list.
No, they covered yeehaws. We were in the South, so
Nah, I bet that
already
is a
forbidden
problem.
Wendigoon, man. By the way, Isaiah, this is
Yeah.
such a hard subject change. I'm sorry, but for some reason,
No,
I thought
no,
about
you're
prison
good, you're good.
YouTubing and thought about your YouTube for a second.
Okay, that works.
When I was watching one of your videos recently, it was not very old, a couple months,
Okay.
and I think
Right.
you said thank you for 200K or something.
That's probably about right. Yeah.
Good job, bro. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Blew up
thank you very
Congratulations,
much.
man. That's nuts.
I appreciate that. The day I hit 1 million, I went back to see, like, I posted a video that day a year ago to see where I was at. And at the end of that video, I said, thank you for 3,000 subs. So in 1 year, it went from 3,000 to 1 million. I think it was
Amazing.
like, I'd have to look. I'm pretty sure I hit 100,000 in either July or August. So it's been over the past like 5 months. I went from like 6-figure to 7-figure. It's
Orders
been
of
very
magnitude.
fast. Yeah, I've been pretty happy with it. And it's just been like a lot happening all at once because it was like, some of the videos started to pick up steam and then some big YouTubers shouted me out. And then I started collabing with some YouTubers and it just like, it kept stair-stepping really fast. But yeah, it's been very cool to see. It has happened very quickly because there's a lot of people who are like, well, I haven't heard like who was it that said, I think it may have been Nick Crowley. Whenever I first talked to him a few months ago, he was like, we're in the same space. Why haven't I heard of you? And I'm like, well, I started, like 6 months ago. He's like, oh, that's why. Okay.
That's probably
Has there been
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Myth. Go
Oh,
ahead.
has there been a huge, big change from being a smaller audience to having such a big audience now? Has things changed in that sense?
So, like, I always say this in videos, but like every time I make something, I learn a bit more. I'm still trying to figure out how to make my camera and audio and lighting look professional. Like, I'm still an amateur. I just have an audience that kind of doesn't match that. I have an audience much in excess of my competence when it comes to YouTube. But
I think you're top tier personally.
Oh, thank you very much, Josh. I appreciate that. It is weird seeing people go back and like look at my videos, which was only a few months ago. I also had, like under 10K subs when I made it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, why did you have a microphone here? Why does the camera look bad here? It's like, because I was using an iPhone with no mic. I was just talking to my phone propped up on a stack of books.
They go, video this recent would have,
Yeah, exactly. They're like, this is only 8 months ago. What happened? I'm like, a lot happened in the past 8 months. So that's been an interesting point. Another point that's kind of weird to see is now almost every time I talk about a topic, there is someone like intrinsically associated with that topic. Like I talked about the MLK video, right? And there's a ton of comments on that video that are like, oh, yeah, my dad was one of the guards who was over James Earl Ray. Or like, oh, yeah, my dad was there. He was one of the people who saw the shooter. Like, it's really weird to see that kind of thing. I even saw a comment on the video I did today that came out this morning about the sailors that were trapped in the Arctic. Someone's like, oh, yeah, my dad was part of the research team. Like, just it's crazy the reach that kind of thing has.
Bro, I'm a nice guy, and I try to be cool with my comments, but I'd have probably replied to that dude and said, no, he wasn't. I'm sorry, bro.
Prove it.
Like, the way that I am with life 99% of the time is like, bro, it's your lie to tell, man. I don't know, unless it's some shit that's really harming people and it's just straight misinformation, it's like, then I won't call you on it. But, bro, your dad wasn't down there in the motherfucking Antarctic or Arctic region or whatever eating penguins and shit. No, he wasn't. Sorry.
There is just enough. Oh, you're good, man. There is just enough plausible deniability with that kind of thing that because I think there was like in total maybe 100 people who went on those crews, so it's just enough where I'm like, I'll leave it. Like I
just enough where he might be that one son of a bastard.
He might be that one, yeah.
But like, what are you doing 74 years old leaving comments on my videos, bro? If that was your dad.
For every million people that you have interactions with, they have anywhere in between 50 to 150 people that they interact with. So think your million subscribers is going to be 100 million interactions and reach.
Yeah.
Good way of looking
especially at it. Like in like an English speaking audience, it's primarily English speaking. So if something's centered on this side of the globe, that it kind of begins to multiply like that.
But just your shirt.
Oh, my first knife fight. Yeah,
I've seen those shirts before. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that actually had one. I've seen them in magazines, like maybe Hot Topics. Yeah, my first knife fight. I didn't mean to crack up in the middle of the sentence.
No, you're good. My girlfriend buys these for me. I've got the one that's like it's like baby's first doll, and it's like the Chucky doll stabbing someone and stuff like that.
Yeah, all the dark kid scenes.
Yeah, I think they're called like shirts for children or something like that. But to further answer your question, Myth, I will say I think that the content hasn't changed that much because I kind of started out like I just want to talk about stuff that I enjoy, and I'm still doing that. I'm just getting a bit better at like how I know how audio works now and stuff like that. But other than that, it's kind of just been the same. I do have this weird problem with like the realization of it because this has happened pretty quickly. And it's not like I've gone to any VidCon or conference where I've like met a bunch of other YouTubers. So this is an entirely online interaction for me at this point. Right. So my family always tells me I don't really get where I'm at, and I don't, because I've gotten recognized a few times in public, and every time I just shut down. I have like no idea what to say or what to do. They're just like, "Are you Wendigoon?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "No, you're not." I'm like, okay.
Have a good day, then.
If you say so, I guess. You know more than I do. Like, yeah, so other than that, I think it's going pretty well.
He's like, I'm subscribed to Wendigoon. I'm an expert on him. You're not.
Oh, okay. A slight existential crisis. I went to, I hope this guy doesn't hear this. He was a very nice man. But I went to a tire change place the other day. There's a guy in there like, are you Wendigoon? And I'm like, yeah. And he started crying. Like he was like nervous, like he got shaky and stuff.
Oh.
And after talking to him, he was a really nice dude, and all that was fine. But at first, I felt so cold. I was like, oh no, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
Gonna freeze up.
Yeah,
there is a huge difference there with content creators because your audience knows so much about you, but you know absolutely nothing about them. So when you meet them, there's a huge like cliff there of
Very
information
one-sided.
about each other, and it
Yeah,
can be a
yeah.
very strange thing, especially if you're not used to it.
Yeah, like the chillest interactions I've had are people like, "Oh man, that's cool. I love your videos." Whatever. I'm like, "Yeah, cool." And I never know what to respond. I'm just like, "Yeah, that's me."
I
Sure
do videos.
is.
You like
I
them.
do. I do. Oh, you like that one? Well, I made that. I bet you didn't know that. That's crazy. Yeah, like
I did that.
I did.
What else?
One
do we
time
say? I'll make more. I'm
I'm
gonna keep it up.
It was happening to such frequency. I was like nervous about it. So I figured like what I'm gonna do the next time so that I can have a conversation with these people other than me just standing there awkwardly is I'm going to be like, oh cool, what's your favorite video? I'm like, that sounds nice. Sounds like a way to engage them. And then the one guy recognized me. I was like, oh, it's cool, man. What's your favorite video? I was like,
Oh no,
I don't. Well, I watch a couple and stuff, and like he got really shy. I'm like, it's okay. No, it's fine.
The one thing you
don't
should
have
ask
to-
that one guy.
Yeah, it was a bad move. So now I just went back to being like, yeah, just standing
You're like,
there.
fuck it, I'll be awkward.
So I actually watched this Impulsive interview today that was Mike Posner. I got to send it to you, Josh, because of your singing that song. It was a really good interview. And he's like, my friend told me this amazing question to just ask everybody. He's like, well, if I was going to pray for you, what would you want me to pray for? I was like, that's a good way to disarm everybody.
Ooh, that is a good way. Man, that would drive someone out of a conversation, like in a good way. Like, could you imagine if you go up to a celebrity, not that I'm a celebrity, but just theoretically, like you walk up to a celebrity and you're like, oh man, I love your stuff. He's like, cool. What do you want me to pray for?
I'm not talking to you anymore, Kanye.
Kanye probably would say that.
Yeah, I was about to say that just sounded like a Kanye line. Sorry. I'm glad you like the music. What do you want me to pray for? For me to leave. That's what I'm praying for. I'm praying for a limo out of this bitch.
I was like, but that's so interesting. Not only is it a great way to actually interact with somebody that like you don't genuinely know how to ask them a question or something like that, but it's also insightful and shows that you're a caring person enough that it's kind of in depth and asking them about themselves, but also showing that you really kind of don't give a fuck all at the same time.
Man, I'm gonna remember that. I'm
could
so
get
afraid
way
I'm
too
going to
personal though.
bro. Imagine if I said that to that guy that cried. If I was just
Exactly.
like, what do you pray for?
What do you need me to pray for you for?
That would just be so strange, man.
Bro,
Nobody
you
would
could-
believe him, probably.
No, not at all.
I guess it depends. If it was Kanye, yeah, I'd believe that.
Yeah,
If somebody
but
said that
if
was
it
like
was just
Tom Hanks, I'd be like, I don't know about
no,
that.
he didn't. No.
It's too friendly.
It would be funny to like psyop someone in that moment without, oh, I love your videos and stuff, and you were just like, I don't. Completely catch them off guard.
Somebody with him. I don't
I
like
hate
videos.
everything that I do, and I just want to die.
Yeah.
Just went away. Do you want my channel? Do you? Here, you can have
You want
it.
to take over for me?
There's a VTuber already plugged into it. All you got to do is write the script, and it does it all by itself.
I haven't been on camera in over a year. It's a robot that looks like me.
Oh yes, it's a clone.
That's why they said, no, you're not.
It's the fractals. It's a fractal.
Yeah,
Fractal Wendigoon.
it's an alternate dimension one of me. I'm from the other dimension.
Indeed.
It's a Wendigoon inside of a Wendigoon.
I'd love to talk about fractalization because I know that's been one of the topics that you've been interested in pretty recently, from what I've gathered. So you can probably explain the concept of fractalization way better than me.
I hate to stop this, but did you want to do what you were talking about doing in front of him? And if we are going to do that, we might want to do that at an hour or so.
Ice Poseidon?
No.
Or...
Well,
No.
that'll be in the private chat. I don't want to.
The dreams myth.
Oh, I don't want to do that on stream. I think that might be a bannable offense.
Okay.
I would think so too.
I was just asking so I knew
Yes.
beforehand.
No, I'm going to talk about it.
And
but
if we
I'm
were
not
going
gonna
to do
do
that,
it.
I would do it halfway through the show.
Nothing, Isaiah. I don't want to do that
gotcha.
on stream.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh, well.
Because terms of service. So,
I don't know.
I can confirm. Yes, bad idea.
So I'll jump out there and say this much because I'm curious to hear your explanation of it as well. My familiarity is that I've been off of drugs for a very long time. In my younger youth, I did, or my 19-year-old teenage years, whatever you want to call it, I did a lot of psychedelic drugs. I know what fractals are as far as the imagery of, the image inside of an image inside of an image. And I've been there and I've done that and I've seen that, but I'm unaware of what the implication of that on some kind of greater platform is, or the frame of, God or spirituality, etc. Now, don't get me wrong. It felt very spiritual when I did it too. And I was an atheist at that time. At the time I was an atheist, and I was like, whoa, that was crazy. What was that? So I'm not sure exactly what fractalization ties in. So I'm sorry for starting with that, but that's my concept. If you can help me get to where you are.
So the concept, and I plan to eventually do a video on this, and then I'll be better researched to know the correct terms of it. Right now, it's kind of just lackadaisical for interest. But the basic concept with fractalization is that people that do mind-altering substances that are specifically, they fall into the realm of hallucinogenics, but more specifically, it's altering, it actually changes your brain waves. It's not just like an upper or something.
Right.
People who have experiences with those exhibit seeing the exact same things. Now, if it was something that, for example, people on a lot of uppers, like cocaine or whatever, they will develop, they talk about whenever they try to focus on an image, there's a blur around it or blurry lines. That is understandable because we're just oh, that's your brain's sensory motors working faster. But with hallucinogenics, the thing that is seen doesn't make a lot of sense. Most often, it's like Josh talked about, you will see these specific shapes and lines and images inside of images. Yeah, the patterns. That's where a lot of things like pattern manipulation and theories come from, because normally it's obviously with any drug, there's stages to it, going from a little unsober to completely gone. And normally on the first stages of mind-altering substances, people will begin to see patterns, and they'll be able to talk through and be yeah, I can see the lines everywhere, or I can see the diamonds or the shapes. And those are seen across every single situation. So it's not oh, well, they're taking something that is making their brain process diamond shapes everywhere. That doesn't make any sense. Right. And specifically, as that high continues to build up, it goes from just seeing shapes to the shapes begin curving on themselves, and there's shapes inside of shapes. And people talk about staring at one spot, and images keep passing through it and moving. Yeah. It keeps spinning in and out of itself. Ooh, that's the reason a lot of people said they're doing this.
It's why tie-dye exists. Trust me. Tie-dye, and psychedelics. Or so, when you look at tie-dye, you're oh, that's why they do that. It's whoa.
It came out of the '70s for a reason. Tie-dye shirts and everything.
They're very psychedelic.
Yes, but
there's a consistency to this pattern, though.
Correct. There's a consistency to it. So it's a really weird thing that everyone who comes into contact with it experiences, and they experience it almost identically, to the degree that on really heavy stuff, on LSD, it's people see the shapes and colors and all that. But on DMT, people will have these long, expansive experiences where they meet the same characters and same people. There's entire forums you can look at online where people who have DMT trips will talk to each other. It's did anyone meet the 10-foot tall silver man or whatever? They'll be yes, I met him last week. And it's there's shared hallucinations, and then there's shared, well, let me flip that around. There's shared experiences, and then there's shared pathways that everyone goes through. The craziest example of it was, there were these guys a few years ago. I briefly mentioned this on PKA, but they were out west, and they hooked themselves up to an IV system, and they stayed high on DMT for 3 days straight.
Holy shit.
During that time, after they came out of it, they were able to accurately relay what everyone else did in the circle to other people. And according to them, they met each other in a fractal plane, which they explained the ground looked like fractals everywhere, and that they traveled together, ran into the same creatures, and had like this entire journey, and were able to altercate with each other. So that's like, it's like weird. What does this infer? The core concept behind the conspiracy theory, quote unquote, of fractalization is that drugs like that are not altering your brain waves. They're putting you on to a different wave. So it's like our consciousness, our experience as we understand it, is one type of way of experiencing the universe or life. And the one that stuff like DMT, hallucinogenics, or whatever puts you over onto is experiencing like either another wave or like the true wave that our consciousness dims us from. And there's a lot of people who relate that back to like, oh, well, that's what the afterlife is like, or that's what eternity exists as, or concepts of God. A lot of people think that is God, like the concepts itself of the patterns, which I mentioned in the conspiracy theory iceberg. The core concept it was getting at is that if it is true that God created everything, then those lines and patterns through it is the pieces of God working through everything in the universe. So there's a lot of theories that run with it, but that's the basic idea of it. So
I can also tell you from experience that people that do a lot of that are aware of it. And we very much know, I remember it very clearly, you don't have to talk when you're on that stuff. When you're in you don't have to use words. It's very, very different. And
I would like to preface this by don't do illicit substances.
Agreed.
And we don't condone that. But I know me and Josh both have experiences with them in the past. And I can definitely confirm what you're saying. Like I've had these same experiences as other people who have done these illicit substances, and it's without any prior like consulting or anything that would influence it. And it does seem to be something that modern science just hasn't discovered.
I do.
There's some things like that seem to be like just past our reach, because like we have a lot of understanding of how things work in the brain, but that's always something that's a little bit ahead of us. That's really wild. If you look at I think it was like the same story as hearing about those guys out west that this was mentioned. So like the Native Americans before the Europeans came over, they had access to like peyote and other hallucinogenics, and a lot of the gods they talk about worshiping are things that people claim to experience in that higher realm and stuff like that. And in other, that's like the Native Americans are the most known example, but like, yeah, exactly. But then there's examples in like, in Europe, there were like people around the Vikings who did similar things. And in Eastern Asia, there were people in the Himalayas, and they all had these same creatures or things that they came across. So even before like modern records or avenues of it existed, there were still people who had shared experiences of these creatures way back when.
Well, right, so you might notice I look like I'm about to bust, right?
Go ahead.
Right? You might have heard me typing. I wasn't being disrespectful. I wanted to make sure I didn't lose my train of thought, okay? Because this is a good conversation, and I know that I'm burnt out, and I don't want to forget a point that I wanted to discuss. You damn near said everything that I wanted to relay right here, okay? Because I was going to tell, and damn it, Zach, don't call me out for this, okay? But I was going to tell a prison story, okay? But this is real, and this is something that really confused the shit out of me because I was an atheist at the time. Well, I was an atheist Buddhist, so I was like a spiritual guy, but without a belief in a higher power at the time, okay? So as we all know in the feds, there's a lot of different religions. The feds have to respect your religion in there because of the government allows you right to, practice your religion, et cetera, et cetera. Well, anyways, there's a lot of Santeria. There's a lot of Yoruba. There's a lot of ancient pagan, like the Viking gods that he was referring to, and the thing about it was, man, I was actually cellmates with one guy who called himself a northern pagan druid, okay? Yes, it's very laughable. His entire religion, if you will, and I'm sorry to disrespect anybody out there that may feel this way. I apologize for even saying this. It sounded very World of Warcraft. He's very much into potions and magics and these plants mixed with this and lay it in the sun for this amount of time. But anyways, he firmly believed in the ability to put hexes, roots, curses, demons on people, right, through his ability. But they weren't demons to him. They're just there and they're to be used. Well, he tried to put him on a guy that practices Yoruba, the ancient African version of this that became Santeria after it was bastardized with Catholicism forced upon the slaves, right? As I'm sure you guys know, I would assume Santeria, Yoruba was the original version. Well, How about I go over there to go talk to this guy about 2 days later? And he goes, what'd your cellmate try to do to me? And I was like, what? And he said, he's putting something on me, buddy. He's putting some kind of gree or something on me. I know what he's doing, but I'm better than him, and I know what he's up to, bro. You can tell him to get that shit off of me. And I was like, are you talking about that? And he was like, you know what I'm talking about? Y'all know what I'm talking about. And I was like, they had to have set this up some way because they know that I'm not down with all this, and I always clown on them behind their back and stuff like that or something like they. So I started talking to Dave about it. Guess what? Exactly what Isaiah just said. He says it's the same thing. Them and also the Luciferians that worship the literal demons as the princes of hell and the Yoruba all have the same, the princes, the layers beneath them, all of these negative from different corners of the world in ancient times when they could not communicate with each other have developed and named these same entities all over the entire world. So I know that was hella long-winded, but it completely tied in with what you were saying because that completely blew my mind, man, whenever they were talking about that. And that was something that I couldn't explain as someone who considered himself to be a scientifically minded individual, is something that I couldn't explain, you know?
Mm-hmm. I will take it a step further. So this is more like personal theory about it, but a lot of commonalities that because I'm a Christian, I see a lot of stuff in the Bible that ties back into that. Because in the Old Testament especially, but also mentioned in the New Testament, there's a lot of instances of people who it says they communed with dark spirits or they would summon them, and that's not really described what the process was. However, a lot of the stuff they described is also very familiar to a lot of the stuff the pagans and the druids and all that described. And it also talks about how people who go seeking these spirits will often find them, and then they'll mess with your mind and everything. So before I say anything concrete, I want to do more research, but it goes back into something called the Grand Unified Religious Theory, that all religions are interconnected off of one root one, and that like a lot of paganism comes from a lot of esoteric beliefs from quote unquote Abrahamic faiths, and Abrahamic faiths tie back to the core belief and stuff like that.
Judaism, etc.
Yeah, exactly. But it's interesting how there seems to be this one through line that ties everything together. It's stuff like that that I really love talking about.
I agree. And it's something that transcends the religion itself or any particular religion in and of itself, although it may be outlined in one and seems to give, you know, a view into it. No, it predates, you know, most of them.
Yeah.
Well, even if you look at the basic religion for a lot of different countries and a lot of different religions, you look at the Native Americans, the actual Indians from India, you look at the Norse people, you look at anybody that has more than one god, and they're all the same. They're just different embodiments of that specific god. And it's kind of weird that everybody kind of just develops the same exact path, same exact ideal, and yet they never interacted ever. It absolutely blows your mind.
Most of it comes down to the golden rule, in my opinion. Most of it, which is a beautiful thing, in my opinion. You know, most of it boils down to do unto others as you would do unto yourself, and damn if every human did that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. And I agree. That's another example of things that, kind of do. You're right. That also does seem to kind of transcend any specific spirituality or religion. Hopefully. Now, obviously, we know that there are some outliers that go against that.
I think a lot of this ties into the I'm not sure if this is even a conspiracy, but of lost history, which I don't know how much research you've done or if you've talked about it in videos, but it seems like a lot of our history is kind of just missing from timepieces, whether it be inaccurate from not keeping records or records being falsified or lost. But how much do you know about lost history or subverted history?
So the core idea with a lot of subverted history is, I mean, it's stereotypical, but the winners, you know, write the books kind of thing. There's a lot of history, especially seen in like Middle Ages time, that is obviously biased because they would do stuff like if they found a culture they didn't like, they just burn it and get rid of all the evidence.
And then say they were cannibals and savages.
Exactly. Then they'd write the books and be like, yeah, those guys nutsos. Just it turns out they were living without any cities or homes for 400 years. We just wiped them out. But yeah, it doesn't look like they really did anything of worth, and that's how it went for a long time. That's harder to do, like in times when travel and commerce was more open. However, there's still examples of smaller groups of people getting stamped out along the same lines, and people not really writing about it. Like
Straight
a good
genocide.
example is a lot of the early Crusades. For example, there were the Crusaders would go to the Middle East, and then they're like, yeah, we took it, and there was a couple fights, but yeah, not much happened. And then meanwhile, the Muslims' account of the story is Catholic soldiers dragging people out and like decapitating them and draining their blood over households, and just like the most brutal stuff you can imagine. Meanwhile, the Crusaders like, yeah, I mean, it was it was whatever. We kind of there's a couple battles and stuff like that is seen a lot. So some of it is he said, she said with a lot of history. The most interesting parts of missing history, and one of my favorite theories from the iceberg, was the phantom time theory, which I don't necessarily agree with. But it was a theory that Otto, King Otto the First, maybe the second, whatever. Otto, the big emperor of the
Ottoman.
Was it?
Ottoman
or was
Empire?
it the Byzantine?
Yes, because you said Otto.
I think
I think
was Prussia, wasn't it?
Yeah, like early. Anyway, it was him and the Pope, Pope Nicholas or whatever, one of the Nicholases. And the theory is that they rewrote the date to be year 1000 because there is the statement in Revelations. It's also mentioned by Paul, but specifically in Revelations, where it says that there will be the millennial reign of Christ, that a millennia after Christ's return, that Christ would come back in a new form. So they wrote the years being 1000 to establish Otto as the second coming of Christ, essentially. And records were so poorly kept by anyone outside of the church that the church did have the power to just erase the date and write a new one.
This would have been Otto I of the Holy Roman Empire.
Yes, Holy Roman Empire. Yeah. That was.
There's like 5 different Ottos that were.
Yeah.
There was the Otto of Greece, Otto van Bismarck, which I don't know how the hell I pulled that out of nowhere, but I knew that one too. And yes, so it was Otto I of the Holy Roman Empire, which was around in between 912 and 973.
Yeah. So like the Holy Roman Empire was around for like an established not long. I'm trying to think of the exact year. I think how long was the Holy Roman Empire for? Did you just say? Was that the Empire or Otto?
That was just Otto.
Yeah, so the Holy Roman Empire is a good example of that because there's a joke the Holy Roman Empire was none of those things because they were neither Holy Roman or an empire. But they wanted to establish the original Roman ideas several hundred years after the Romans were destroyed. So a lot of the ideas they put forward were all about reclaiming the original concepts of the Bible, and historians have said a lot of that was done with misinformation. So once the Holy Roman Empire came to be, a lot of information got thrown out. Like, for example, the original Romans were not Christian at all. They killed Jesus. they were as non-Christian. Yeah, they were not Christians. They took all of their gods from the Greek pantheon and renamed them. Meanwhile, the Holy Roman Empire came in and was like, yeah, the Romans were super Christian. They were Christian the whole time, never changed a bit. The Catholic Church, well, they just adopted Roman ideas. That's why we're the Holy Roman Empire.
Because they got it from us.
Exactly. They got like we're just continuing their stuff.
They wouldn't be anybody without us. We killed the guy. Pretty much. They're nobody without us.
Oh yeah, that was like the rhetoric they're giving, and it actually was like hundreds of years later that people put together the records and was like, no, that's not what happened.
Was it? You just said something. Was it your video that I was watching where you said that it sounded similar to this? Was it your video? Since Judas knew that the betrayal would happen, essentially he had no choice in the matter. Was that your video that I was watching?
Yeah, that in the Bible theory video I talked about that, Judas's destiny.
Like really, he was doing the good thing ultimately.
Yeah, that's one of the theories behind it. My personal theory is that Judas was never a believer because it talks about the devil entered into him. The devil
entered into him, and I agreed with what you said on that. Yes, he wouldn't.
But there is a theory that he was acting in faith by carrying out the betrayal of Christ. Because of destiny and timelines and whatever, it gets real wibbly wobbly with some of it. I don't agree to that, but yeah, that is a thing I've talked about on my YouTube channel.
I was wondering if that was your video or not.
The Holy Roman Empire ran from 800 started with a German leader and ended in 1806 with another German leader.
Lasted a good 1,000 years then, huh? Or is that like 3 years
Well,
and they
so
skipped 1,000?
Yeah. Well,
No, they
so
ruled
it was
through the entire thing.
like the empire, and then like Germany became a country, and they kind of
Well,
like
Prussia.
kind of separated, and then Prussia, and then like everything kind of started to break up and run apart. So it wasn't which the joke, the Holy Roman Empire is none of those things. It never really had a full empire conquest time outside of like the Crusades and stuff like that. Whereas like the original Roman Empire was like all roads lead to Rome, supposedly, you know, like they conquered the world. So yeah, they
After about
weren't as cool as
1100, they didn't even
OGs.
have Rome in the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So it kind of
Big fakers.
Yeah. Yeah, the Holy Roman Empire. There was a period of time where there were 3 popes, because the Pope resides at Rome, right, or the Vatican. So in the Vatican, there was one pope, and then the Holy Roman Empire lost that, and they're like, well, that pope's illegitimate, so we have our own pope. So then they made a pope, but then the son, I think of maybe the original pope, or it could have been the Romans pope. It's like, I'm supposed to be pope, and he had a bunch of followers, so he just left and said he was pope over here. So there were like 3 popes.
I'm gonna
at
go be
one
pope
time.
over here then.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you 2 are going to be pope? Well, I'm pope too, over here.
I think I've seen a list or something, the histories of the Pope, and I feel like some of them had asterisks next to them and were like debated / false
Yeah.
or whatever, you know?
Oh,
And I was
yeah,
like,
there
what
were
the
some.
fuck?
There were popes in like, this would have been like 12, 1300, who would like kill the pope in charge and then take the throne, and then they immediately got killed and someone else took it. So they were pope for like 2 weeks. So a lot of people consider that, you know, illegitimate.
Wow.
There was one pope who got really bitter at the guy who was previously pope. So whenever that guy died and he became pope, he had the original pope's body exhumed and put on trial, and eventually declared it guilty. And I think the punishment was they threw the body in a river.
Nope, I got
God.
it. I Googled bad popes because I knew that this shit was going to come up at some point.
There you go, my man.
So his predecessor, Pope Formosus, was exhumed and tried in trial and was defingered, briefly reburied, and then thrown in the Timber, which was a river.
Yep, there it is. So
some
they
personal
cut off
shit.
his fingers. Yeah, he was so mad, cut off his fingers, buried him, brought him out, threw him in the river. And then if I recall right, that Pope had followers who didn't like the new guy for obvious reasons.
Yeah, obvious.
And they like fished his body out of the river. And I'm pretty sure there was like a small war or like scuffle that happened near the Vatican over this entire Pope thing. There was a lot of weird stories with like the Catholic Church.
Because those are the people that wanted power that weren't really like spiritual at all. They were in it for the human aspects. They just wanted to...
Well, see, that's what's interesting about, like, I'm not Catholic, but what's interesting about a lot of Catholic history is there's this weird discrepancy with their history where it's like the Pope is a person who is ordained and chosen by God, given through the words of the cardinals to decide what God wants for the situation. However, there have been several points in history that through either political manipulation or like power dynamics or whatever, someone illegitimately comes to power who is then cast out or destroyed. And it's kind of like, I don't want to say like a plot hole, so to speak, but it's kind of like a glitch in a lot of their understandings where it's like, well, this is supposed to always be an ordained perfect practice, but obviously some people came to power who were not. And there's been different explanations for that throughout history, but it's always like an interesting discrepancy to me.
I actually have a cool story of one. Pope Benedict IX. He was Pope from 1032 to 1044, and then 1045, and then it gaps 2 years to 1047 to 1048, and then I think he probably died. He sold the papacy.
Oh,
that's right. Yep.
That's why he was Pope 3 fucking times.
Will you sell it for debt?
Let's see what the
Sell it for
story is.
gambling debts or something? I mean, what the fuck? And buy it back? I'm gonna let you keep it for a week, all right, Freddie? Give me back my hat.
He was Pope Benedict's
Next week, you better give me my
father
hat back.
obtained his election through bribery. However, his dissolved activities provoked revolt as a part of the Romans. Benedict was driven out of Rome, and Sylvester III was elected to succeed him. Some months later, Benedict and his supporters managed to expel Sylvester, Benedict then decided to resign in favor of his godfather and provided reimbursement for his expenses. Benedict subsequently had second thoughts and returned and attempted to depose Gregory VI. I don't know how there's so many different numbers if they're not in line. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But
I think it's the number of which one they were. Like if I wanted to be Gregory and there's already been 6 Gregorys, I got to be Gregory VII, right?
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't make sense because, like, I believe in England, if you were like Henry I, Henry II had to come right after you, or it was Henry something else.
Oh, weird. Well, that's lame. They weren't doing it Targaryen style.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had a prominent clergyman appealed to King Henry III of Germany to restore order. Henry and his forces crossed Brenner Pass into Italy and summoned the council to decide the matter. Benedict IX, Sylvester III, and Gregory VI were all disposed. Henry then had to Clement II elected in December of 1406.
That's crazy, man. This is what happens when people get power, dude, and they let that. Oh my god, man, that's crazy. How corrupt.
There was the child pope who was like 16 or 17 whenever he became pope. I think that was also through some stuff like a war or skirmish or whatever.
Of course.
But the most interesting one to me, well, I guess it's more of like several popes in a line, is whenever I read Dante's Inferno. Dante Alighieri was a part. There was this scuffle that happened called the Gulfs or the Gifts. It was like there was one side who supported the Pope who's currently in the Vatican and another side who found him illegitimate. Dante was on the side of supporting the Vatican Pope, if I remember correctly, and not the Holy Roman Empire Pope. And like they executed everyone who was on Dante's side, but they recognized him as being the famous writer, so they just banished him from the city. In Dante's Inferno, he talks about the people who are in hell, and in one of the bottom layers of hell, he comes across the previous Pope Pope Nicholas, the previous Pope Nicholas.
Oh my God.
And the Pope Nicholas, who's in hell, explains that it's also like the worst torture in the entire book, but he had political reasons for doing it. It's like a rock. It's a hole in the rock that's drilled out, and it's like scalding, glowing red hot, and you have to crawl inside of it. And it's like the size of a coffin, and you just sit in there and burn on rock forever. And the previous Pope Nicholas is hanging out, and he explains that this is for all the illegitimate popes, and that whenever Pope Nicholas III dies, which was the current pope, he's going to have to move further down the drill so that they can make room for him. Like all the illegitimate popes are shoved into this one hole in the rock, which I talk about. Yeah, talk about telling them off. Yeah, that's a lot of bitterness.
There's some venom there.
Your video on Dante's Inferno is amazing. Like I've read it in high school, like most people probably did. But like you explaining like the pettiness behind it, like how he just kind of used it to pick fun at people he didn't like, and like tell them that they're going to hell because they wronged him.
That's a classic piece of literature.
You know how they're going to be punished.
A bunch of people have clipped the section where I'm like, oh, you don't like it? Okay, well, your mom's in hell, so good luck. Have fun with that. I'm glad that you like that. That's super cool. I'm actually planning to cover Purgatorio pretty soon, probably this month, and then eventually Paradiso, so I can have covered the entirety of the Divine Comedy.
Oh, okay, never mind. Purgatorio.
Yeah. Because so it goes Inferno, Purgatorio, Paradiso. So like heaven, hell, and purgatory. And in Divine Comedy, Dante goes through all of those. It's just retroactively we split it into thirds because it can be read as like 3 different books. But like I clowned on it a lot in the video because it is funny, and I'll continue to clown on it in future installments. There is something kind of honorable to me about a guy who was cursed, who he was banished by what was to him an illegitimate government. And he was banished from his homeland of Florence. So there is something beautiful to a man walking through hell and still asking people, what of my homeland, what of Florence that I can't visit? It's like it's his own hell that he's forced to go through because he can't know about it. And I do like that. But it's very fun. It's funny to me in my videos to highlight the lunacy of him standing before the devil and being like, but what's Florence like? What's happening back at home?
I guess he was saying
but
how much it really hurt him, huh?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, like the purpose of Dante's Inferno was it was a political hit piece because he wrote it while he was banished, but he knew that the people who banished him would see the book because Dante was such a famous author. Yeah. So throughout it, that's why he talks about their Pope being in hell. That's why he talks about missing his homeland so much. Like, it's a very smart move, like historically for the time, because it's like, I can't speak my word to these people who hate me. So I'm going to write a book and I know they're going to read it. So in my book, the alliterations I give are going to relate to the modern political climate, which is pretty cool. As he actually didn't get as much hate for Divine Comedy as he did another one called De Monarchia or De Monarca. It's monarchy, whatever the monarchy word is translated to Italian, which also, fun fact, Divine Comedy is the first book ever written in Italian, or at least the modern complete Italian language. But he wrote one after that called De Monarchy, which is that word as it's used in the Italian context is referring to a kingship. But the book was about the popes of the Holy Roman Empire. And so the title itself is alluding to the idea that it is like a blood-born kingship. And that's the one that everyone lost their mind over. And there are people like, we should have killed him when we had the chance, blah, blah, blah.
We let him go.
And it wasn't until like, actually the one who made Divine Comedy famous was Shakespeare. So it was hundreds of years later that, because Dante was, I think, around 1200. Right. And Shakespeare was like 1700. Yeah, so like 500 years later. Yeah, like I think 1500. So like hundreds of years later, Shakespeare reads Divine Comedy. Like, this stuff's pretty good. So he starts to talk about it, and he incorporates ideas of hell and stuff into his own work, and that's what really blew up Divine Comedy. So even though it's like this fantastic piece that has a lot of cool alliterations, ideas in it, Dante never really saw the success of it. He saw success for much more of the timepieces. And then Shakespeare obviously was Shakespeare, and he was like a rock star in his day. So anything that he highly praised, that became a big deal in itself.
It became the culture.
Exactly. Yeah. It got like famous in Europe over that. And then I may be wrong. It was either Mark Twain or one of the Romantics in American English, like Thoreau or someone, talked about how the Divine Comedy was a big deal, and that blew it up in the Western world. So like, it didn't have success until hundreds of years afterwards. That was a needlessly long rant on the Divine Comedy.
I believe Thoreau is right. Yeah.
I love Thoreau. Thoreau gets me going. I tell you what, man, that guy knew how to talk
one of
about
my English
trees.
teachers turned me on to Thoreau, and like I've loved his work ever since.
Man, I tell you what, I reread parts of Walden for my Chris McCandless video about the guy who walked into the woods and froze to death. And man, figuring out that because I like in preparation for that story read Walden, because I'm like, this is gonna put me in the mood for it. This is gonna get me thinking that direction. And then I was reading Chris McCandless' final journal entries. And in one of the final days, he said, I just finished Walden. And man, that was like a dagger. I was not expecting that. And then to see that, like, I read something to feel like the call of the wild, the need for nature. And then in his final words, to hear him say that he just read it. Oh, man.
Wow, man.
I love stuff like that. Yeah, man, I'll tell you what.
You mentioned that you were talking about, like, when you were getting in the zone or preparing for the video. I was actually going to ask about that. Like, when I was watching the 9 Types of Angels, for example, is that something that you already had a great deal of knowledge on? And you were like, there's 9 Types of Angels, like it. And now, of course, he says every video with a disclaimer that I personally also really appreciate, where he says, this is not trying to convince anybody to believe this or anything. This is just telling you what it literally says in the book by the actual scripture, And so I was wondering, did you already know ahead of time, well, there's 9 classifications and I know a good deal about them, and then develop the knowledge, or how did the preparation come about?
With that video, it's similar to, honestly, a lot of my other videos. I already am familiar with it and know why I want to talk about it. I just need to like get the facts down, right? Like you just heard me explain everything about fractalization a moment ago. I would not go make a video on it right now because it would just be me being like, yeah, man, there's like these lines and diamonds everywhere. And I just sound like the crazy conspiracy theorist. I need like facts and stuff to back it up. Right. And it's kind of the same with the 9 types of angels. So I always knew there was 9 types of angels, just in personal research and understanding. I know about like the Archangel of Michael. I know about a lot of the Catholic beliefs. There's 7 archangels. I know about the cherubs and the seraphs and all that stuff. So really the research for it was like, okay, I need to get the specific verses where it's mentioned. I need to get specific descriptions from those verses. I need to talk about where they show up and all that stuff. So it's really just highlighting stuff I knew. Like the Chris McCandless video, I knew that story. I'd seen the movie of everything that happened to him. So now it's just like, all right, I need to line this out essentially so I can talk about it on camera.
Right.
But yeah, for the 9 types of... Yeah, exactly. Pretty much, that's a good way to describe it. I've got the skeleton for videos as I go into them. I just need to put more meat on it, essentially. So yeah,
and edit it with the skin.
I think a huge
with the skin.
I think a huge missed opportunity on PK actually was Taylor not bringing back Bible stories for your episode, since you do Bible stories on your channel.
I think because I was kind of like between us. I was also kind of hoping that was going to happen.
It was
I've seen the Bible
minute.
stories too.
So
yeah. Zach can explain better than I can.
it was planned for Isaiah to come on for a conspiracy theory episode with Bible stories, and Taylor was going to have everything prepared, and we were going to do make Isaiah choose which one's the most believable, and kind of just go into like super in-depth kind of stuff. But we ended up having a huge scheduling problem, and Isaiah literally came up clutch and was like, yes, at like hour 11.
Twice in a row now.
Josh and Wendigoon were both like, yes. And it fucking worked out, and it was one of the best episodes of all time. But obviously it wasn't like it was something that was prepared. Obviously there was conversations.
It was a little more off the cuff.
Yeah. Conversations were going on in the background that Wendy was coming on at some point. It just was depending on when he was specifically coming on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Taylor, I actually typed whenever we were on PKA because I was going to ask you a question, but Taylor kind of asked it before I could really get to it. Have you ever, but I'm going to just kind of want to know if you can expound on them a little bit more because we had a lot going on then, but has there been a time where you were like, this is casually interesting. I think there's probably enough here to make a video for a conspiracy in particular. And you start reading up on it and you're like, wow, they're not crackheads. I remember you talking about the MLK one in particular and you hit me with a bunch of facts that I had no idea. Like stuff that you said is confirmed fact. Like they basically admitted that James Earl Ray did not shoot Martin Luther King and that it was all a setup from the beginning. And if he did, he was put up to it by the CIA to begin with or something like that. And that's apparently confirmed, available public knowledge that I did not know about. So that's an example where if I was in your shoes and I would have been researching it, I would have gone, oh shit, I'm stupid here. This is confirmed. This is crazy. And I would have been convinced,
So basically have ever like convinced myself of something while researching it.
Right.
So I will say about that MLK one, if you thought the stuff I said on the PKA was interesting, I'm not plugging my own stuff, but I would recommend watching the video because I have had.
I am plugging his stuff. Watch it. It's a great
I'm plugging it too. Watch it. It's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Very
I appreciate
entertaining.
that. I had a couple DMs from people who said they were FBI agents who are like currently having a crisis over that video. And like I did go into I've always been, I don't want to say conspiracy theorist, distrustworthy of the government, so to speak. And I kind of knew in the back of my head, I've always had in the back of my head knowledge, like it is a definitive fact that MLK was murdered by the FBI. It's just been something I've known. So I'm like, let's do a video on it. I didn't realize I wasn't alone in those beliefs. Because like in the video, I show interviews with the judge on the case. He was like, James Earl Ray did it. It was a cop who shot him. Or like, it's like prosecutors who were like, I never believed it was James Earl Ray. The police definitely murdered him.
What the fuck? Everyone nobody knows this. They don't tell you this in school.
This is on the video. There was one guy who saw James Earl Ray that day. And then on an interview with the CBS reporter, which I show on the video, he sees a picture of James Earl Ray and goes, oh, that wasn't him. Like, that's it. That's it. That's the entire case against him.
Well, the crazy thing is, and you can continue to expand on this in a second. So Martin Luther King Day just happened. So what the hell do you learn about around Martin Luther King Day when you're in school? Martin Luther King. So my kids came home. They're like, yeah, Daddy, did you hear about this guy who was killed by James Earl Ray? And I'm like, that's not the truth. But I don't have the time to go into this.
Yeah, you're like, yes, dude.
Sure, kids. I know the person who you think was killed by James Earl Ray.
Yeah, I know who you think killed Martin Luther King. Yeah, I know who you think did it.
Idiots. Why don't you know?
That's crazy though that this is like a widely accepted fact. But that he just said exactly what I
They
said.
won
which
a
is that
civil
in
case.
school they teach that he got murdered by James Earl Ray.
Yeah, what Myth just
Violence.
said. What Myth just said. They sued. They specifically sued a guy by the name, I'm losing my brain right now. Lemoyne. It sounded like a girl's name, Lorraine Lawar or something like that. Anyway, they sued him for being in league with the FBI and the Memphis Police Department and killing MLK, and won the case. And they won and proved. They had the dollar amount set to $100 because they wanted to say that it was not about the money; it was about the conviction status. But they sued him and won the case. I read through some of the court records, and it was just like, it wasn't a hard job for the prosecution either, or I say representing lawyer on the case, because all he had to do is just be like, yeah, so here's everyone saying that he didn't do it, and here's the one guy saying that he did do it, but then here's the piece of paper where he said that he didn't do it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow, a lot of evidence there.
Yeah, there was 600 interviews, I think, that he gathered. It was some number in the hundreds that he gathered for that. There's one guy who's like the expert about the whole case. I show a quick interview clip of him in my video, but he asked the FBI for all the records, which legally the state, after a case is over, has to turn over records to public, blah, blah, blah. So he asked for all the records the FBI amassed, which is like 8,000 pages, and he read through all of them. And he's like way worse than I am about the FBI didn't do it. Like this is why I use the clip of him talking about in the video. According to the official report, James Earl Ray, as he was leaving the hotel room, he just shot MLK, runs down the hallway, goes to his hotel room, neatly picks up every beer can, perfectly places his thumbprints on them, sets them in the bag one by one, takes bobby pins, does the exact same thing over and over again, picks up his rifle, repackages it in the original box, tapes the box, throws it into the bed sheet, and then takes like empty shell casings and does the same thing, wraps it up, goes down the street, walks a block, sees a cop car, and decides to take that entire bag and drop it.
That's not scary.
And then run away. Yeah, that's the official story. Like, oh yeah, he totally did it.
He just dropped a bag full of evidence in front of a cop. That's nice.
Yeah, the guy who did all of that, like supposedly carried out one of the biggest assassinations in American history, was dumb enough to place perfect thumbprints on everything and then look at a cop and throw the evidence on the ground and run away. So yeah,
what was
I'm
in
pretty
it for him? I mean,
sure.
or was he trying to get? I don't. What the fuck? So straight up cop did it? That's the working theory. Is it just a Memphis cop did it?
The working theory is that Lieutenant, what was his name? Dan Cross. He was like the sharpshooter on the Memphis Police Department who took the shot. But it was real. The real story is that J. Edgar Hoover, who was the president of the FBI, who had made several open statements in his office, like, "Oh, we got to kill that blank blank," time and time again. Years before the assassination, they had wrote several letters to MLK pretending to be a black youth in the U.S., trying to get him to kill himself. Like just straight up, like, you are ruining us. I got like all these brutal letters. Like, I was molested or whatever at school today because people say they hate you. Like, you should stop. You should kill yourself. And it turns out years later, those were written by FBI agents. So they hated him. Baby. Sworn to protect. Yeah, sworn to protect. They hated him a lot.
Well, J. Edgar Hoover took out hits on JFK. He took out hits on RFK. He was the reason both of them were assassinated as well. So it would make sense that everybody in the 60s was killed by JFK.
Yeah, speaking of that, how did you feel when the JFK files were held in classification recently?
So it's kind of funny to me because it's like, So for those that don't know or watching, or Zach and Josh, the way it works with like federal investigations, if something is classified, that classified date technically has a timer on it. So after like 40, 50 years, it becomes public access. So the JFK files became official, like released. It was like 4 years ago. The first batch of them was, but so it's like, so the JFK files are the FBI's investigative findings from, I think it was 1951 to 71, some gap of time like that. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there, which is, I plan to make a video about it one day. I just really have to research, because if I don't back any of it, I'm going to sound like a schizo. But like what Myth is referring to is that when you go to the JFK thing, it's like a page that says like, oh, well, JFK was in Dallas this day. 14 pages that they refused to declassify, and then the end of the report.
And it's all black markered out, and
it's all
hard
gone.
redacted.
It's in existence. Yeah, hard redacted, all of it. Like 14 pages just missing. They're like, well, yeah, but that stuff we don't want to mention. So it's like, okay,
This
so
is
you
stuff
didn't.
don't get to know, even though it's
Easy,
declassified. It's classified.
Exactly, yeah. Like it's stuff that the reason it's still classified is because it would promote a distrust of the state, and we can't be having
Exactly.
that. But like I talked about Raul in the MLK video, and I didn't go into it there, but Raul is also connected to the Robert Kennedy and John F. Kennedy assassinations. It was supposedly a code name used by agents who were operating with Cuban militants. Which one of the lead theories with JFK is that the shooter from the grassy knoll was a Cuban militant. That's its own story. But all those assassinations that happened in like the 60s were, as Zach said, most likely carried out by orders of J. Edgar Hoover, who openly said that the goal is to make sure the FBI is the residing force, and not like a presidency or a group of people, like essentially the watchdogs who need to protect everyone else. So they were aggressively pushing for that. The reason John F. Kennedy was killed is because he openly despised the CIA and the FBI and wanted them gone. He said, I think the exact quote is, "If I could, I would take the CIA, smash it into 1,000 pieces, and throw it into the wind."
Damn.
He also, about, I think it was like 2 or 3 months before he was assassinated, he came out and did a speech about secret societies and secret governments and shadow governments and stuff like that, where he went in depth and was talking about how there's more than meets the eye. Make sure you're paying attention to what goes on now, because shit's going to get crazy. Obviously, he didn't say shit, but he was talking about how everything was about to go fucking nuts. And months later, he turns up dead.
Yeah, like that final speech is pretty harrowing to listen to. Exactly like Zach said, it's a description of like there are intricate bodies at work that are manipulating the government people. He's like, and I plan to put an end to that. And then 2 months later, some crazy commie pulls off the most insane shot in assassination history after firing a bolt-action rifle 3 times in 2 seconds, hitting a shot on a moving car at 700 yards away. Or not 700 yards. It was like 180 yards, something like that, on a moving vehicle. Yeah, some like the most improbable stuff ever, leaves all the evidence everywhere, and then gets shot by an Italian mob boss from Las Vegas who claimed that he was just a big fan of JFK and really wanted to kill him. And then Jack Ruby said, so Lee Harvey Oswald got arrested, and he's like, "I'm a patsy. I didn't do anything. What is this?" Then 2 days later, he gets shot by Jack Ruby. Jack Ruby's who has a record for running mob circles out of Vegas, and was recently diagnosed with terminal cancer, is like, "Oh, I just really like JFK. That's why I killed him. No other reason."
They were like, "Hey, how much money is it going to cost? You got cancer anyway. How much we got to pay you? Hey,
we got to tie up some
loose ends."
I need to look back into the facts to know specifically how much, but his family was paid off and massive insurance thing after his death in prison. So, yeah.
Interesting. What?
I believe this was
like, oh, it was insurance.
I believe this
That's
was with the JFK assassination. Is that where the umbrella lady? Is it the umbrella
The
lady?
umbrella man. The umbrella man. So there's the babushka lady and the umbrella man. There's two of them. Yeah.
I don't know what those are.
From what I know, and I'm sure Wendigoon can explain after me what I missed, but the umbrella lady is a lady just holding an umbrella. It's a sunny day. I'm sure we've all seen the video of JFK being shot, and she raises an umbrella right before the shot rings out and JFK is shot. So a lot of people assume that was a signal in order to give the go ahead.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So it was the umbrella man, but you're absolutely right about all that.
Yeah.
But no, you're good. You're good. The reason I want to correct you on that is because what happened afterwards is the funniest part. So the official story, as he said, it's a bright sunny day. He's standing there with an umbrella, and then on the video, he looks back at the window of the bookstore and then flashes the umbrella. And then that's whenever, like seconds before the shot rings out. And then, according to bystanders, after the shot, he just folds up his umbrella and sits there, like as if the guy's like, "Oh, I'll just casually turn to the bookstore, open my umbrella on a sunny day. The president's been killed. Well, I guess I'll just sit here for now."
Never mind. I'll just close this and sit back down.
And so there was a trial that happened immediately after Kennedy's assassination. Where the state, no one believed that Lee Harvey Oswald did it, especially not state investigators. So they had a trial to determine if there was any wrongdoing on the behalf of the CIA, because the CIA was the one set to guard it and look over it because it had to do with the president and blah, blah, blah. So the CIA were essentially put on trial. And the umbrella man came up during this trial. And people were asking, like, this guy's suspicious. Can we get him? So the CIA brings in a guy
with an umbrella.
I'm being serious. Yes, no. You're correct. A guy walks into court and he was like, "It was I am the umbrella man." And they're like, "Do you have any proof?" He's like, "Yeah, this umbrella. Here it is. It's an umbrella." And they're like, "Man, I guess they got us there."
All right, yep. All right, he wasn't being sketchy. That explains everything. He's a guy with an umbrella.
I guess the CIA didn't do it. This man clearly owns an umbrella.
Well, damn. Lee Harvey Oswald is guilty.
JFK's brain also went missing. Side note.
Yes, that's such a weird one.
Yeah, like they did one autopsy and then there was like incorrect data on it or whatever. So then like we need to do another one, and no one could find his brain. It just disappeared.
So theoretically, do you think that would be evidence tampering to like destroy evidence, or?
That's my theory on it, that it was
time travelers came back and they were like, "Listen, in the future they can download your mind from your brain. This shit is dangerous. They know what we did. Get rid of it now."
We need JFK.
Dallas hospital did a autopsy. Yes. And that was what was found was unconclusive. Then the CIA did their own autopsy, and that's when things went missing. And then they did a third one.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So all of those photos that were leaked, photos that were leaked and everything were actually from the Dallas, autopsy.
Yeah, where people were like started seeing some discrepancies in it.
Yeah.
So then the CIA. So then, as Zach said,
was still there.
Yeah, so they did a first autopsy immediately, like at Dallas, like while everything was fresh, and they're like, "There's some weird discrepancies." So as Zach described, then the CIA is like, "Don't worry, we'll look into it." And then they're like, "Yep, there's no issues. All right, can we look at it again?" They're like, "Yeah, help yourself," and the brain's gone.
That's crazy. So
and
I can't think. I was thinking, and the CIA what?
The CIA is like, "Huh, that's weird." And then during the investigation, they had all these books of evidence against the CIA, or like it was, it was the second Zapruder film. So there's the one Zapruder film where you can the shot everyone knows from the top right where you see him get shot. There was some in the Zapruder film. You can see a guy on the other side of the grass filming with a camera looking the other direction. That video was shown to. It was during the actual trial, so it was 12 people. That video was shown to the jury, during this entire trial, and all of them definitively said, yeah, there's a second shooter. We can see the flash on the camera coming from the front of the car where it happens. Okay, the day afterwards, they were asked to present it to the courtroom after the jury had seen it, because evidence moved from private to public, whatever. They were asked to show it, and they couldn't find it. And the official story is that someone threw it away.
Oh my God.
The shit's in a landfill somewhere. The evidence of who really was involved.
Yeah, some janitor. The official story, some janitor was like the paper cups, plastic, the video of JFK's assassination, the play, like
Yeah, somebody misplaced it, you know.
Yeah, it's like, oh, oopsie.
The CIA was like, hang on, we need to investigate that. We're going to catch this guy. Damn, we lost it. What happened? Butterfingers. Oh, well, I guess that one guy did it. What's his name? That guy. Yeah, he probably did it.
Like
It was two of that guy. What's his name?
Lee Harvey.
Lee Harvey Oswald. I want to call him Harvey Oswald. It was two
clown.
Lee Harvey Oswald. We watched the footage, everybody. It's cool. He shot and then he ran over there really fast and he shot again. It's okay. We got it figured out, and then we lost the tape. But
so
we figured out.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
You just teleported.
This guy just spawn glitched himself across the map.
He was
and
lagging.
managed to hit that headshot. Yeah, he was lagging.
He was lagging his muzzle fire across the map.
Like,
Don't worry, guys. We handled it. Got rid of it. That,
he sat there and glitched on top of the buildings, shot really quick, and then ran and jumped across them.
yeah, easy. And
that's why I was... Go ahead.
I was going to say I would find it more concerning if they said he lagged. You know what I'm saying? I would find that to be much more concerning. He glitched for a second. Don't worry. He was over there. Wait, hold on. Back that up. What the fuck do you mean he lagged in what? Hold on.
Yeah, the guy also supposedly fired 3 bullets from a bolt-action Carcano in 2 seconds. So the equivalent of being in a video game and you pull the trigger 3 times and then they all happen at once. That.
Good grief, man. I never knew it was like that. And this is all, once again, just like the public knowledge of like what is confirmed, right? All this stuff about losing things.
Correct. It's more than that. So after Robert Kennedy's assassination, which occurred 2 months after MLK's assassination, they decided that something weird was happening. So the Senate held something known as the House Select Committee of Assassinations, where they specifically had a committee made up of senators to determine if the FBI and CIA was committing assassinations against American yeah. So during this, the Robert Kennedy one wasn't done in courts yet. So they specifically reviewed JFK's assassination and MLK's assassination. And in my JFK video, I read the exact quote. But to summarize, their final findings on the JFK phase is that JFK was most likely killed by some form of conspiracy between a shooter and departments or the entirety of the United States federal government.
Oh,
so that's senators saying definitively, yeah, the government killed JFK.
That's what
they did not. That's what the committee found of American senators. With MLK, they did not come to that conclusion. However, shortly after, this was all closed trial. It was all a closed trial. It was not public. Right. It was not televised. This was like a very private, just private testimonies from like members of the CIA. I think J. Edgar Hoover was there and stuff like that. So just like very shut case for obvious reasons. They did
Hoover was
not
there doing the Monka.
They did not come to the conclusion that MLK was killed by the government. However, it came out a few years later that the analyst that gave them the information, who claimed to be a part of, it was like the Congress, just some specific job given to people who transfer data over. Like the lead of that, the one who makes sure all the evidence goes through to the people who are holding the trial, it turns out that he was a CIA agent.
Wow. So they might have gotten somebody's information.
Oh, and the same jurors who were a part of that reviewed the full information later and said, yeah, MLK definitely did it. So MLK was definitely killed by them.
The crazy thing is there's connections like that in all of them. So Robert Kennedy was JFK's attorney general, and he cracked down on the mafias and stuff like that, which helped JFK get elected in inner cities because a lot of people didn't want to vote for JFK because of whatever fucking reason. I don't remember if it was because he was a Democrat or a Republican. Something wasn't going to affect them and help them. So it wasn't going to
He wanted to go to the moon and the aliens weren't having it.
But his dad was part of the underground and the mob and all that shit, and just bought them off and got a whole bunch of people to vote for JFK from the inner cities and stuff because of the mafias and stuff like that. So the big dude, Jack Ruby, who kills Lee Harvey Oswald, is connected with Chicago.
Mhm.
And the head person of the mafia, Sam Giancana. You want to know who one of the biggest people that RFK put in jail was as he was an attorney general?
I have
Sam
a couple
Giancana.
guesses.
That's an interesting connection.
Yeah, that was a
so
huge. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying that was a huge thing back in the day. Is the mob would pay people off to vote for a specific candidate, and it influenced elections to an insane degree.
With mob money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was a bodyguard for Jimmy Hoffa. Not like up when he died, but before.
I was like, he didn't do a very good job if he was Jimmy Hoffa's.
No, he did. He didn't do a good job at all. He got contracted later to go break up a bunch of the picket lines at South. But he was a bodyguard early on because he was Italian and was in a lot of those like mafia circles or whatever. In Detroit, whenever that was like the townies were a big deal and everything. And he would always talk about like, he just straight up told me some stories that I cannot repeat on the internet about stuff that he was paid to do and everything. However, he always talked about how like there was no legitimate elections or what, so people were paid to say things on camera and that decided what happened in elections. And if they ever weren't there, then you could just miscount the vote and stuff like that. But yeah, that ran everywhere, not just through like Detroit and Chicago, but everywhere. Yeah, Robert Kennedy threw the lead of the mafia in jail, and then he gets assassinated. Not long later it was at an airport, correct? Am I remembering? I haven't looked into the Robert Kennedy one at all.
It was in the hall. It was in the kitchen of the hall that he was speaking at.
Yes, that's
right.
correct. Yeah. So he dies there.
On the plane crash or something. I'm stupid.
I don't think one of the Kennedys did.
Yeah.
So he just got straight murdered. Somebody just walked in where he was having a speech.
I believe it was a waiter, right?
What?
Hey, Josh, he just really hated the Kennedys. I don't know what's so hard to believe about that.
Yeah, the CIA agent, that waiter totally just hated the Kennedys.
The one Kennedy,
Mafia
the
man.
oldest one, I believe, died during a Army or Air Force thing, and he died in a plane crash. He was the oldest one that was supposed to be the president and pushed into politics and everything else, and he died.
Which one was the one that had the car accident with the girl in the car and she drowned?
That was Robert, right?
That was Robert.
No, that was the crazy one that's still alive.
At Chappaquiddick.
JFK Jr. died in a plane crash. That must be what I heard about. It's apparently what Chad said. Maybe that is what I thought.
Wait, we're live right now? Oh, we are live. Where are we live at?
On Twitch.
Everywhere.
Twitch, YouTube, Facebook.
Oh, there's
Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy was the one who got in the
right at the
crash.
end.
This whole time I thought we recorded. Then I scroll over to comments. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, we're live, bro. We're chilling.
Okay.
Act natural,
that
bro.
was a surprise.
You don't remember when he said the dreams he didn't want to do that because terms of service? He said he didn't want to do it on live stream.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense now. I was a little confused by that. Yeah, but the Chappaquiddick thing, he's straight up murdered a girl, and then got away with it. But my girlfriend has this sticker that says more people died at Chappaquiddick than 3 Mile Island. Which 3 Mile Island is so 3 Mile Island is the island in New York where they originally did the nuclear testing. And then all the big people who were making money off of oil did all these campaigns against it. Like, oh, did you know nuclear energy kills people? And it's also not environmentally friendly, which was total lies that people still believe for some reason, even though it's the most efficient fuel source, but whatever. But the joke is the Kennedys killed more people than died ever due to nuclear energy, which the Kennedys actively tried to put away. But that's an old vintage sticker from the 80s. Yeah, more people died at Chappaquiddick.
I was about to say, that's why I didn't get the reference, because that's some old
school. Yeah.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, it's like an old bumper sticker, but it's so funny to imagine like someone like back in like this hippie days or whatever wearing that on the back of their car.
Somebody comes up and busts out his windshield.
Yeah.
Baseball bat.
That guy, he got killed by a waiter, you know?
Yeah.
And then you have Marilyn Monroe
about
herself,
that. Did he just walk up to him or what? This was not. Nobody ever confirmed this was CIA or anything this time.
I haven't done my deep dive into the Robert Kennedy one yet. However, considering my previous gaps of knowledge, I will state that he was definitively murdered by the CIA.
Just to stay on theme here, we're going to go ahead and assume. Yeah. We're not even assuming. We're definitively stating. Like, get at us, FBI. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
And as Wendigoon has said before, if he ever commits on alive, he did not do it himself.
I did not do it. If I ever kill myself, no, I didn't. Yeah, but like, they've been 2 for 2 so far. Going for the third game, might as well assume they're going to make it a turkey. Just go all the way out.
J. Edgar Hoover again.
Shit. So
yeah,
I didn't really ever read what the hell happened. So Sirhan used a 22 caliber revolver that contained 8 rounds, all of which were fired. Since the assassination took place in a tight, confined pantry, all bullets became embedded in the walls, ceiling, and the victims. 3 bullets hit Kennedy, 2 stayed in his body and another tore through his arm. 5 bullets that hit the other victims stayed in their bodies, meaning 1 bullet that passed through Kennedy's arm would have been lodged in the room itself. The LAPD found 3 bullet holes in the foam ceiling and concluded that a bullet must have ricocheted through the ceiling before turning back and hitting another person.
Through a foam ceiling? What was
2 people were killed?
I didn't even know there was 2. Yeah, what was that all about?
Only JFK died. I guess 3 other people were shot.
That was the cover-up is what it was. They're trying to make it like it wasn't about
the 5 bullets that hit the other 5 victims. The LAPD removed a door frame and ceiling tiles and later incinerated them.
Oh, what do you know? I'll say it just loses it.
Another one nailed.
We called it. We're on the right track. We called it. Check mark next to that one, guys. The FBI did that.
Yeah.
Robert Kennedy's son, Robert Kennedy Jr. later
Every time.
That there were too many bullets, and you can't fire 13 shots out of an 8-shot gun.
Oh, dear God. Here we go again, man. They're everywhere. Damn skull and bones or whatever.
So what I'm hearing is I was right. It's 3 for 3 now.
Yes. What we're hearing is. Oh, it ricocheted and got some other people. And also we burned the door for. I'm noticing a theme here. I've just got to say this is the exact same shit.
The ceiling. What the heck?
Much like the
from a
Umbrella
cloud.
Man. In this one, there's a woman in a polka dot dress.
That's the sketchy person.
So
here we go again, man.
So the official story is he walks into a kitchen, shoots Tom 3 times, or Robert 3 times, and then fires 1 round into everyone else, then leaves.
Just too. I don't
It's
know,
like,
man.
it's just like, all right, my work is done, and then he like phases away, like he just
like
teleports.
a CIA hitman.
How do you walk through a kitchen that's full of people? Because you know that kitchen's going to be full of people. They're serving how many people, taking care of all these fucking people that were there for RFK's inauguration and saying that he's coming out as president, all that shit.
Yeah, it was at his announcement, right?
Yeah.
Right around it.
That he was running for president.
That he was running, yeah.
So think of how many people were in that kitchen preparing food and everything else. How's this dude just run out of
Not to mention
a kitchen?
bodyguards, government agents protecting him because he's
he gets caught up in
running
a
for
pantry.
president.
He gets called up in a pantry. Yeah, Myth. What the fuck, man? They were slacking. They had. Hey, I'm just kidding, but they had Wendigoons. Who was it that was watching Jimmy Hoffa? Who'd you say it was you?
My grandfather.
He was working for Robert that day. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing.
You're good. That's hilarious.
I don't know. Like, and the best part is they probably interviewed the chefs and like nobody knew who the fuck the guy was. Like, I don't know that guy. He doesn't work here.
Don't worry, Mr. President. We hired the best. This guy guarded for Jimmy Hoffa for 2 hours.
And he hit him so good that nobody knows where the fuck he
Saran
is. He's been gone for 40 years. That's how good he hit him. He completely disappeared. So don't worry, we got the same guy for you.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Knows what's rare. It's hilarious that the federal protectors who were standing around him were like, "Ah, man, We forgot to follow him to the kitchen. Oh no,
Damn.
how terrible
Didn't think
that
about
in
the
this
pantry.
one moment that guy managed to slip by.
Yep.
What a tragic set of circumstances.
Man, he said he'd be right back. He was just going to grab a snack. Like,
Yeah, that's all. He just stepped into the pantry. He said,
Bro,
BRB,
it's-
bro. And I said, all right, Bobby. Yeah.
Man, I can't wait to clip that. It's so funny that I'm like, I'm pretty sure, like, I literally know nothing about the Robert assassination. I'm like, the CIA did it. And Zach's like, yep, they burned the evidence.
They said some shit that didn't make sense happen, and they burned all the evidence and said, it's cool, don't worry. We're noticing
that
truth.
is like, Myth, you were talking earlier about hidden history. This is the modern example of how that works. Because it's like, oh, this doesn't correlate with what we want. Just light that on fire. What evidence?
Ooh.
yeah,
What
throw
are
it
you
away in
talking
trash
about?
can.
Prove it happened. You can't, so we're right. It was who we said it was. I can't believe you just walked off into the pantry. and just,
These ceiling tiles, these right here, the ones in the fireplace, that's your evidence? Okay, cool. Where's your other evidence?
oh, we
Where's
didn't
your
know that was
actual
evidence. We thought, well, I mean,
What did that-
release the paper. Y'all didn't see our judgment? We were
Josh
done with
wants
it.
these cops on his side.
Yeah. I need
Those hard drives?
this
What
level.
hard drives?
Yeah, I need this level of losing shit to happen. In my case, yeah. We lost RuneScape. We lost this. I didn't even have anything. Why didn't they just lose? I mean, fuck, all I had was Jolly Roger's cookbook. We lost the laptop. They did give me back the laptop. They didn't lose it. They gave it back to me. Cracked screen. Looks like somebody literally stomped on it. That's exactly what it looks like. There's like about a foot-shaped dent right in the middle. Completely broken laptop, squished. And they gave me back my BlackBerry too, broken.
They never lose anything when it's like a kid who made a joke online.
Yeah.
Ever.
Oh yeah.
But when it is the president of the United States, they're just like, oh man, the janitor must have got it. Oh, man, that's how awful.
We left it sitting right here and they threw it out. Damn. Well,
Think of it
I
this
guess
way.
what we said rules.
Think of it this way. Now, all of us have been at a shitty job that we didn't give a fuck about. At least I have. Josh probably has too. Myth, maybe you're a little too young for
I
this.
have.
Now think of your shittiest day at that job. Now, how many of those things did you do that could have gotten you fired?
Quite a bit.
A lot.
Now, how many of them were as bad as fucking up a presidential investigation?
Man's got a point though, man. It's hard to do your job under pressure. Pressure busts pipes. He's right though. Because you know what happened is it was probably like so revered and so important that the guy was like, bro, I'm going to put it in the one spot where only I'll know where it is. And he straight forgot, bro. You ever done that before? Like, this is special. I got to stick it somewhere and then you fucking forget. That's what he did.
You didn't know ceiling tile turned fire blue? Come on now. I had to find out, man. There's no YouTube
We're
to show
doing
me
tests. This is
anymore.
important.
The investigator. It's like he walks up to the other, like, hey, could you put these in the evidence locker? Don't throw them in the open fireplace. And the guy's just sweating, like looking over at the fire.
The button, you know the button meme with the guy sweating, like, destroy evidence, keep evidence. He pushed destroy.
You know that clip from Ed, Ed, and Eddie where they're like, Ed, don't eat the sofa. And he's like,
Yeah, don't destroy this evidence, Jim. Oh, shit, I couldn't help it. Throws it straight in the fireplace.
The masculine urge to erase all evidence of Robert Kennedy's assassination.
That's a masculine urge. Is it just a macho movement now? We just got to get rid of Bobby Kennedy.
He just like felt it in his bones. He was like, I need to burn everything right now, man. Gosh, I swear.
The sweating memes got me.
This was fantastic. I loved that. I was like, I bet it's fishy. And then 2 sentences in, Zach's like, oh, they burned the ceiling.
You didn't even say fishy. You said I'm definitively stating with no evidence that the FBI did it. And we read one paragraph. Fucking FBI did
Bro.
it.
There's also another part that kind of baffles me, which is kind of funny. How do you miss 8 shots when you're an inch away?
That's the thing. How big was this fucking pantry? I mean, I'm sure it was a good sized pantry, but
the
damn.
fatal shot was behind Kennedy's right ear and was fired at a distance from approximately 1 inch.
Dude, he
He shot.
He just went in there flailing, dog. He went in there flailing it. Or they went in there flailing. No, What it was 7 people taking one. It was his bodyguards. Is what it was. He was just in the pantry, 1 bullet each, baby.
Wasn't the problem with the ceiling tile that there was like 5 missed shots in it? That was like the whole ordeal.
His
That's
gun
why they
held
That's why they
burned
were
it.
destroyed.
and there was 5
Gun held
rats
8
that were in the
ceiling.
ceiling.
That's it. It ricocheted off of the ceiling. So they removed the ceiling and the door frame tiles where the ricochets happened, examined it, said yes, it happened, and then destroyed the fucking door frames and the ceiling tiles.
So supposedly, this guy this is the official story. This guy walks up to Robert Kennedy, shoots him factually 1 inch away in the back of the ear, barrel snuffs him, proceeds to fire 5 shots into the ceiling
And
before
hit
hitting 5
people.
other people in the room. So the way that they explain that is that he became dead shot from Suicide Squad and ricocheted them off of the ceiling into the people of the room.
He
Yeah,
actually
apparently
became
so.
Deadpool, and he slapped the revolver open, slapped 8 more rounds in, and just started firing.
The guy had sleight of hand on, just
Instant reload, yep. He just popped off, and apparently these ricocheting ones were the thing. Because you already know that there's probably 38, 50-something bullets in their room, more than likely. So, they're all stuck in that ceiling tile, so they take them out, and they're like, how do we account for the extra shots here? Everybody's dead or injured. They ricocheted. But since the bullets are still in the ceiling because they didn't ricochet, whoops, I accidentally dropped it in the fireplace when I was specifically told not to. Damn it.
I like Josh's theory that like the entire Secret Service just like unloaded on him, and they were like, "He went that way." Quick, get him.
They come out of the pantry. Yo, he went that way.
Yeah,
What the fuck? I never saw this coming.
I can't believe he got by all of us.
Yeah, damn, he got past every single one of us. The guy that just got hired today by a boss that also doesn't work here. First day on the job, he did
By a boss that doesn't work here. I'm excited because I'd planned on doing a Robert Kennedy because like I was so confident in the fact that he was murdered by the CIA with no evidence. I was going to be like, yeah, so here's my video about him being murdered by the CIA and just start researching. I'm so excited to get into that case like I did the others.
bro. You were correct.
So somebody first hired Saran Wrap, but where did Tinfoil go? Because we knew he was around there too.
Who the fuck is Saran Wrap? Is that the name of the assassin?
Yes.
Is it really? I don't know. I don't know the name of the assassin. Is that what they called him with Saran Wrap? No,
His name was what? His name was like Saran.
Oh, the Saran guy. Oh, okay.
Saran,
Saran.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, damn, I'm missing a key
Saran.
element here. Who the fuck is Saran? I thought it was like that guy that called himself, forgive me, monetization. Dude called himself Deep Throat that was like leaking the information. Like I was like, ooh, who's Saran Wrap and tinfoil, bro? We're getting fucking juicy. You didn't mention that.
No, it's like I could see like the prosecutor from Texas who's like obviously paid off by the feds to make sure Saran goes to jail. And he's like, now, who in this courtroom would trust a man named Saran Wrap? And like everyone's like, ooh, he's like, I rest my case, Your Honor. And then he's guilty for 800 years.
No, the worst part is that not only was that a great impersonation, that was a great impersonation of their evidence. That's really, it's a lot of, most of what they do is just straight attacking your character and calling you a racist or a homophobic or a Muslim piece of shit. It's like, what, that's all it is. Like whatever benefits them,
Now,
you're an extremist.
Geez, Josh, I wonder how you know that.
Yeah, not from personal experience or anything. Everybody they get is the worst of their kind that they've ever fucking caught. You know what I mean? Like
they've never messed up once.
No,
ever.
of course not. No, that would, like you said, you put it well. They can't promote a lack of faith in the state,
I wonder if somebody really fucked up and somebody walked through the door behind Robert Kennedy and somebody yelled gun and they heard the door open. So that the entire Secret Service turned around and, and went to shoot somebody and just shot 30 times.
Actually, that's actually not a bad theory, though. For real, shit like that happens and they won't admit it and they'll just come up with all kinds of crazy. It doesn't necessarily mean they were involved in the murder, but they botched some shit. You're right, dude, because once again, they have to appear perfect. You very well could be right. Hell, they could have killed his ass for real, not even on purpose. This might have been an accidental FBI assassination. Somebody's like, gun.
That's actually... Yeah, that's actually one of the leading theories on the JFK assassination. There's a theory that a lot of people subscribe to that the dude in the car behind him had pulled his gun out and was like driving like this and fired.
It wasn't the driver.
Kennedy.
It wasn't the driver.
Okay.
It was So they have a Netflix doc about this, which is what I was going to say before, but I couldn't get the thought out. So they have a Netflix doc on the JFK assassination that goes into depth that the Secret Service might have killed him. If you watch the original film about what happened, originally they were supposed to have Secret Service following and standing on the back of JFK's car. They tell him to get off. They tell him that they can have the top down. That wasn't supposed to happen. So that's two changes that happened that day right then.
Yep.
They had cars following him, as all presidential processions do. And Netflix, I don't know if this is real fucking footage or not, because I don't remember. I watched this fucking 5 years ago. They had footage of a Secret Service agent pulling a fucking M16 out from underneath the driver's seat and picking it up and then saying, "Oh, fuck," and hiding it.
Oh,
Who
God.
would that have been? The killers?
So
he
that
killed
is
with
the
an
theory,
M16 bullet?
is
I don't know
that
much
he
about
was
guns.
killed with the M16 that was pulled up and shot.
And then he was
But
like, "Whoop, let me put that back down there." That was the murder weapon. Whoops.
So it could have been shot from the car in the front, which would give you back into the left. It could have been from the grassy knoll. It could have been from numerous different things, because there was a car in front of JFK, there was JFK's car, and then a car behind.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I remember seeing a picture of it. So, I mean, they can clearly figure out what angle he got hit from, if nothing else, right? I'm sure that's down to a science.
Supposedly back into the left, but also he was shot 3 times from the back.
Yeah, that's where the magic bullet theory comes into play. The trajectory doesn't add up to,
With
to
the other two?
evidence. Yeah.
Like, there's one of the bullets is not on the same trajectory.
So it's been a while since I've gone through this. The official story is that the rifle round came down. Let me get this right. Hit him in the neck. Went forward. He was set like this through the neck. Hit him in the forearm. Shot down through his elbow. Hit him in the thigh. Ricocheted off of his femur. Went through his knee, and then hit the governor who was sitting in the seat in front of him, or the mayor. I think it was the governor.
And then
Is that
the
possible?
evidence picture of the bullet, it's almost completely untouched. Like it looks
It's
like
just a perfect bullet. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
it
look
went
like it
through
went
his
through anything.
spine. It went through his spine and out his jugular, through his forearm, hit his thigh, and then, like, just logically, yes, bullets do stupid things if you shoot them at trees. So, like, I can understand where it would ricochet a shit ton of times, but there's no bullet at the end of that. It just goes fucking crazy.
Anytime a bullet is deformed enough to dramatically, because the speed bullets are going, it's hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. They're going at such a speed, and they're made out of soft lead, which is a very soft metal. If it hits something hard enough to divert its flight path, the entire bullet is malformed and destroyed.
Right. Yeah. Lumpy and
Yeah, it's like a block, which some bullets are made to do that. They're made to deform and then rip through someone like that.
color point.
But the concept of a bullet, yeah, exactly. The concept of a bullet doing that, hitting his forearm and then going directly down 90 degrees, hitting his leg and going another 90 degrees forward. So basically, like, did this like a ladder.
No,
and
I'm
then
not
kept
buying
going,
that.
And then hit the guy in front of him, and then they pulled it out of his side, and it was perfectly just like it was shot into a gel block. Yeah,
And that's to account for a hole in him, I'm guessing, that's at the wrong angle, right?
No,
yeah. So he got.
that was the
Go ahead.
second shot. So the first shot rang and hit off the trunk of the car, which they actually can account for Lee Harvey Oswald shooting. He missed, hit off the trunk. It makes sense logically where it hit. So the second bullet is the magic bullet that goes through all of that. And then the third bullet, which is the one that doesn't make any damn sense at all, is the one that makes sense for it to have come from the front, hit him in the eye, and blow out the back of his skull. But the FBI says it goes out the exit, it goes in the exit wound and out his eyeball.
No, they
And
say
I'm-
that? That's their official position?
Yes.
Yeah,
Bro,
so
I've seen that picture. You're trying to tell me they're claiming that
So-
the bullet went in like this?
Yes.
When the
So-
back of his head is blown out, it doesn't
I'm
work
sure
like
we have
that.
all seen things be shot.
Well-
Like the exit hole it's deaccelerated, so you get that expansion of everything.
Yeah. Dude,
And-
that's crazy.
Like
I
you
love
see-
Josh like just coming to terms with this.
Oh,
all at
man.
once.
I didn't know. That's crazy as fuck.
No,
So
but
weird.
what you were saying, man. Yeah, absolutely. Exit cavities are always way bigger than entry wounds, because what the entire reason a bullet works as a stopping weapon is it's carrying so much kinetic energy that whenever it touches something, it transfers that energy into whatever it touches. So the entry wound's like a little pinhole the size of the bullet. And then after it hits the cavity and has to slow down, all that energy goes into the body and it blows out the other side.
Well,
you can see in this. Go ahead.
If you've seen Jackass or something like that, and somebody punches a fat man, you see all of the fat come back, and it's the easiest way to describe it.
Blow back.
Everything just explodes back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the official story. So you can see in the video. So Kennedy, whenever he's shot, he's laying forward like this because he had just been shot in the neck. So he's laying forward like this, and Jackie's comforting him. And then a shot happens, and his entire body shoots up and lays on the back of the car.
So he got shot from the fucking front.
Correct. Yeah, he got shot from the front. The official story, and keep in mind, the entire back of his head blew up. So the official story is that it hit the back, and for a split moment in time, there was a gravitational glitch, and inertia acted backwards, and the explosion went that way, and then it came out his eye, which caused his nerves to freak out and him to spring out of the vehicle and jump and land on the back. And that, keep in mind, this happened like he got shot, leaned forward, and then shot again by supposedly, again, a bolt-action rifle on a moving vehicle.
So it was like a second apart between the shots.
Yeah, so it was like bam, bam, bam. And there is historical... I mean, this is going into like all my JFK theory information. A lot of people who were there said there were way more than 3 shots, and recordings of the Zapruder film that have been analyzed now indicate at least 5 shots happening. Mm-hmm. There was one guy who was walking across the street who heard a gunshot, stopped, turned towards the parade, and then he got hit in the shoulder. And the official story is that he was just mistaken in hearing the first gunshot. And what happened is the shot Zach talked about skipped. The first round supposedly skipped off the back of the car, skipped off the pavement, and then hit him. However, that doesn't make sense if he heard a shot, turned, and then the first shot skipped and hit him in the neck. Yeah. And then they fired more. The reason they stick with 3 is because there were 3 shell casings found upstairs with Lee Harvey Oswald. And then, the rest happened. But I'm pretty sure there was more than 3 shots. Either way, I know that the last shot that killed him did not magically come back.
Right, yeah. So Lee Harvey Oswald really did go there and take shots that day. Is it pretty much assumed that he was in the cahoots with the CIA and they just had multiple avenues here to make sure that it went down?
All right. So I used to be of that opinion, and then I did some more research into it, and supposedly the 2 cops who arrested him said they entered the bookstore. And so Lee Harvey Oswald did work at the bookstore. That was true. And he was working that day, and they were renovating the basement. And supposedly the 2 cops' testimony is they ran inside, and he was mopping the basement, or like the first floor of the bookstore. And then they go up. So the official story is Lee Harvey Oswald shot those guys, ran out into the hallway. A cop showed up. He killed that cop and then ran downstairs and then got out. So I'm pretty sure the cop died who he shot.
3 bullets. Think of it that way.
Yeah.
So he shot twice and shot a bullet at a cop.
Yes. Yeah. So he runs, does all that. So he gets out of the building. And then that's the official story, but according to the police report initially, they ran in, saw him mopping, grabbed him to arrest him, and they arrested him. And then later they changed their story and said that he was actually on the run in the stairwell whenever they got and caught. Or no, that the official story is that he got out of the bookstore and ran to a nearby theater, maybe?
I think that sounds correct.
Yeah, so it was some abandoned building. I think it was a theater, and that they arrested him there while he was trying to run.
Couldn't even get the story straight.
No, yeah. So they're like, oh, he was mopping the first floor, and then they go, actually, we were in a theater across town when we managed to grab him.
Easy mistake. I do that all the time.
It happens all the time. And he just conveniently propped his rifle upstairs and set up the little shell casings.
He just thumbprinted everything for us, real nice and smooth.
Yeah.
So you don't
So-
think
What
that
a swell
is
guy.
it possibly a
How-
freak coincidence that he was there to kill the president on the same day that whoever
Nope.
was there to kill him?
So George W. Bush, who was part of the CIA
Yes.
at this point, was supposedly never accounted for at all during the 70s and 60s. His parents said that they had no idea where he was. He was off on an oil rig somewhere. There's pictures of George W. Bush in front of the school book depository when he was like 5 years away from being head of the CIA.
School book deposit.
Yeah, so that's the building that Oswald shot from.
Yeah.
Oh
supposedly.
dear God, George
yeah.
Bush killed what the fuck?
Yeah, so
So there's a
I
popular
love that
theory
this
now.
is the first you're hearing
I'm
of this. This is
starting.
fantastic. So
We're talking about
George,
President 2000, George Jr.
yes, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh,
no,
yeah,
no, no, no,
anyway.
no.
No.
Senior Bush,
Yeah.
senior
So
Bush.
it's okay. I was a little confused, but we're talking about Herbert Walker, though.
Yes, yeah.
So his dad.
No, no, no,
okay.
no. Yeah, the dad, the father, H.W.
Yeah, Herbert Walker.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So H.W. Bush was one of the people set to guard the president's motorcade that day, at least according to reports that are now redacted or whatever. He was set to guard the president's motorcade that day. He failed his job worse than anyone in history could possibly fail their job. They're like, hey, protect that guy, and he gets zapped, like his brain explodes backwards and everything.
He is killed in the most suspicious manner possible.
Exactly. He is then, like Zach said, a few years later, promoted to head of the CIA.
Politics, bro.
And he was asked years later during his presidential campaign where he was the day of the Kennedy assassination, and he said he didn't remember.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't really know where I was.
I was in
Just kind of
third
around.
grade when 9/11 happened. When I got in the car, and I can't even remember motherfucking what I did back when I was in third grade, like on a day-to-day basis. And I remember getting in the car with my mom and her saying, "Do you know what happened in the world today?" And I said, "No." And she said, "These bad men drove airplanes into these," and I was just a little kid with some shit that happened on a whole different part of the country than me. And I remember that clearly is a very important moment in my life, let alone being a grown ass man. And this is your job and one of the most significant moments in American history, the assassination of a. All right. So what we're saying is George Herbert Walker Bush did it. Now he's dead. So he's not going to go to prison.
Yes.
for it.
Yeah.
You
So
heard it here
there's
first on Real Men Talk Shit, unless this is a working theory.
so there's actually like more that goes into the Bushes directly. not to state all of it right here, but
Oh
there's
my God.
evidence that the HW. I'll send you a video afterwards. A good
Please
short
do.
little summary. It is so he became like high up in the CIA. Is supposed to guard that guy. He dies. Is promoted to commander of the CIA, and then he immediately. He used to get campaign funding and like promotional funding because he was one of the big spokesperson early on. He was kind of like the J. Edgar Hoover of his time. And then after he becomes president, those same groups of people start to get money deposited into their accounts. And it's
good.
always just trace the money to figure out where stuff's going.
Normally oil, probably. Bush.
Yeah, oil's one of the big ones. Yeah.
Oil's a big one.
Why did they
There's a
hate
lot of money
nuclear
in
so
oil.
much? Oh, that's right. They have all the money
oil.
in it.
I
Yeah.
forgot.
Oh, I
There's a lot to
forgot.
be lost from that.
What a goofus. Yeah.
Somebody told me the other day that that's the reason that they think that weed will still stay illegal for a long time is because of how many industries it hits. It hits the medicine industry, it hits the clothing industry, it hits the alcohol industry, the cigarette industry. Like it hits so many of the huge donating like super PAC that like that's why it's taken so long to get it overturned because weed will impact 5 other major huge markets. Even big pharma, like I said, medicine. So
Yeah.
It's also one of the primary ways to entrap people in prison systems, which you can then use for effective slave labor. But I don't have to tell you about the prison industry. But there's a reason.
It's not
There's a
our
reason
vice
on the
president.
13th. Yeah, there's a reason on the 13th Amendment. There's a little clause at the end that says, "Except for in cases of punishment."
Yep.
You can. Yeah, you can
literally
enslave people.
says you
make them
can't
work.
enslave people unless it's for punishment. That's what it says.
Yep.
It's there
Yep.
because if you try to argue against it and say this isn't fair, they say nope, punishment. We can do whatever you want in America.
Yep.
Haha.
Exactly.
Have fun. Not only, and guess what? We just came up with this new thing. We used to just sentence you to 10 years in prison, right? But we just came up with this thing called supervised release, guys. So now you'll do your 10 years in prison. But then here's the best part. Then you got 10 years of drug tests, showing up twice a week on your dime with your gas money when you just got out of prison, and you got to get there to go take your drug test. you know, and hey, you know, if you do happen to slip up a little bit and miss a phone call and they send you back, well, you can work Unicorn and make the military's clothes for 15 cents an hour. Am I right, guys? Hey. Oh my God. Sorry. Don't get me started. And, and you know what the best part is? What do you spend the money on when they're paying us to make military clothes for 10 cents an hour? And they're paying us 10 cents an hour to outfit their military. What do we spend that money on when they put it on our books? Their zebra cakes that they charge triple price for. Their honey buns that are double. Yeah, slavery's legal. Trust me. It's legal in America. You just got to commit a crime.
There's this one speech. I forget who said it, but they were talking about how it was one of the civil rights leaders. After, you know, they abolished slavery, there was all these slave owners who had these large plantations who didn't have, you know, they had all this asset and nothing to do with it.
Right.
A lot of them converted their housing and plantations into prison yards, and refinery systems became wardens. And then they just started arresting people for stuff, and they were right back on the old plantation. So,
bro, I'm from Mississippi. That's literally true. Yeah.
Well,
I'm originally from the deep south where there's plantations, and literally in Natchez, Mississippi, there's a former plantation that is now a major federal transfer center, where some guy is getting paid $150 or whatever per day for every person that sleeps in his prison per day.
There's also a lot of slavery plantations and stuff where the people wouldn't even leave because they weren't educated. They weren't able to do anything else. So they ended up just staying on as working essentially. And then they stayed there anyway. Like so many people portray that as like it was such a done thing right there. And it just wasn't. Because
no, it wasn't like all of a sudden now that you're free, everything's easy.
Yeah.
There was sharecropping is what it basically became the new serfdom. I mean, it was still pretty much slavery, you know, but at least they were free to leave, I guess. Realistically, probably not, but technically free to leave, you know. And as a former prisoner, I would like to say that is a lot of fucking difference. I know it doesn't sound like much, bro, but having the choice is a world of difference in your mindset. I assure you. Knowing that they could walk away probably is what kept them there, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true, man. In my hometown or where I was raised up in Natchez, Mississippi, there's now a big giant federal transfer center and or federal holding facility there, mostly focusing on illegal immigrants that they sentence to time before they deport. That makes sense. That makes sense. You're going to do 9 years worth of taxpayer dollars in prison before we deport you. Oh, okay. You know what he's going to do in there? He's going to work at Unicor and send all that money home to his family, and they're going to be making a killing. It's a very, very strange system they have there. I know so many dudes that intentionally got arrested for illegal entry into the United States to go to federal prison, to work at Unicor, to send the money home because it was better than any money they had in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, don't get me started on the feds, bro. They're fucking crooked. And let me tell you, I've never been into conspiracy theories, but this has been an eye-opening conversation. And if I had not gone to prison and been through what I've been through, I think I would have been way more skeptical tonight. Like I'd have been like, well, this could have been. But tonight I'm just like, yo, fuck it. FBI definitely did it, bro. I know it. Been there, done that. FBI crooked AF. And I'm saying it loud and proud.
I mean, several federal courts in the years since have also come to the conclusion that the FBI did it. Like I feel pretty safe in that assumption.
And I have to bring this up before we wrap things up because I'll be devastated if we don't talk about it. But Bob Lazar, I think, is one of the most known conspiracy theories relating to Area 51 or specifically UFOs. Have you done research on Bob Lazar?
In passing, I actually have the Wikipedia pulled up to see if I've done anything. Like, I don't think I have dived into this guy. I know the name Bob Lazar. Yeah, he's the guy. He was one of the first whistleblowers on Area 51, right?
He's been on Joe Rogan several times. That's probably where people know him most from. But basically, he claims to be working for government agencies. I believe back in the 70s. Does that sound correct? Anyways, he said that he was hired by the government in order to reverse engineer UFOs that they had seized. And he has evidence showing back in the day he was a real scientist. He has a degree from a very credible school. He put a nuclear engine onto a car, and there's news articles about this. He created a particle accelerator in his bedroom. There's articles about this. And he basically a lot of what he says has came to be true after he said it. So about elements like 115, which was later discovered after he made a claim about it, handprint technology that he said was used to enter the facility that was completely denied and used as one of the things to defame him most, saying that this technology didn't exist where it would read your bones in order to identify you. And then that later came out that it existed during that time period. And he is, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people, is one of the most credible people in saying that UFOs existed.
I'll look into that as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
he has somewhat of a shady past. Like he used to run like a brothel in Nevada. But like,
good.
I plan to eventually hit, like right now I'm still on anti-government conspiracy theories. I plan to, which that one also is, but I plan to hit some of the more esoteric, like extraterrestrial stuff. And so when I get to Area 51, I'm going to go down that.
The government completely erased his social security number. They released they destroyed any records of him going to school.
They said you're not even a person anymore.
What? My word.
My goodness.
My word.
That's
all right. Thanks, Uncle Sam. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I know, right? All of your accomplishments for nothing because you tried to help us.
How many of you guys have played COD Zombies?
Plenty.
So
not as much as these two, I'm sure, but a lot.
Do you guys know the element that was used to create the zombies?
Was there
115? Yeah, 115. Yeah.
I was sitting here reading this, and I'm like, oh, so he helped with extraterrestrial things in Area 51, and helped with antimatter reactor powered by 115. I'm like, wow. Ooh. So Call of Duty Zombies sat here and paid way too much attention in history class. And
yep,
bro, like I tell you this, like, you know how like in the Black Ops 2 and stuff like that, they talk about like Agartha and like going to like the hidden chambers and all that stuff. In a ton of research, a ton of ideas that I first heard of from them come up, but all their talks of like I think they call them the Apothecans, but like ancient scripts and stuff. And they talk about their Glocka experiments, and they talk about like all that stuff from the games is taken from real world conspiracy theories and stuff, which is what gave me a deeper sense of appreciation for the series. I love that stuff. I'm actually considering like, because I do like the real conspiracy theory stuff, and I do like horror series analysis. I really want to do a Black Ops Zombies lore video breaking down all of that.
Black Ops 2 that kind of went through Agartha and stuff like that, which is like Christian lore and kind of that stuff, and like the deep down thoughts of like religion and super in-depth kind of background stuff. And then you have the Apothecans, which is, what the fuck was that dude's name that always wrote about serpent-like people? And I can never fucking remember his
Lovecraft.
Name. Yeah, Lovecraft.
Oh, H.P. Lovecraft.
And then it was all Lovecraftian kind of ideals and how that kind of influenced it. It's just interesting to see that, yes, there's really an element 115, and it was antimatter. And now you look at the end of Black Ops 3 Zombies into Black Ops 4 Zombies, and everything's antimatter, everything's Agartha, everything's Apothecans.
They have some nerds working there.
Yeah. And it's just super in-depth.
Oh yeah, those guys are pretty cool. Like even if you get later in the series, like Groom Lake being which is a real site that supposedly is operated by Area 51, and like talks of like teleportation, all that coming from Nazis. Like those guys are pretty cool with a lot of their ideas.
Yeah. They even went super in depth with like the conspiracy theories about how the Nazis made a bell, which was made to transport them to the moon, which then gave you the moon map, which is kind of hilarious if you actually think about it. Then you also have the transporter on what was the map with the bridge. Like you went through the entire map, and then like the last part of it, you stood on this like catwalk, and you shot down towards you see the bell on there. You see the bell on the theater. There's a lot of that shit where they just sat there and went through.
There was a prototype for a gun it was like an anti-aircraft cannon, but it was supposed to be troop deployable. So the pieces of it were like small enough to carry around a group. That it shot a plug of air into the sky that theoretically would rip apart planes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was and that's where they came up with the idea of the Thunder Gun. Yeah, so they were pretty cool about a lot of stuff. There was a program for something called the Sun Rifle or something Gewehr that was supposed to be condensed electricity bolts, and that's where they got the Wunderwaffe, stuff like that. They're pretty cool, the COD developers.
That is sick that they borrowed from actual science. At least it always makes games more interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's
Those guys know what's up.
Well, they went through the JFK conspiracy theories in the first Black Ops. If you play through the campaign.
Oh, really?
They did. Yeah, that's right. Yep. At the end, they show that Mason is the grassy knoll shooter.
Yeah, it's funny.
Which is fantastic. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, so the actual shooter was Alex Mason from Call of Duty Black Ops.
And Woods didn't even tell us what the fuck.
Yeah, shame that wasn't Woods. We had him on.
We just had Woods.
Oh, you had the voice actor?
Yeah.
We had James C. Burns on here like 2-3 weeks ago.
Bro, that's fantastic.
We might know a person.
Dude, that is insane. My word. That's pretty awesome. Very cool. Nice.
Yeah, he was just here a few weeks. I thought it was a great episode personally. I learned a lot from him, I felt like.
Talked a whole bunch about voice acting and all that shit. It was a ton
Even
of
though
fun.
that's not even by his own definition, that's not his main thing.
Didn't he not get invited back for one of the new ones for Cold War?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, it really. We talked about that a lot.
Aw, that's sad. Aw.
And how his DNA and how it was built on the chassis of himself, you know?
Yeah.
How no matter what, they're not quite going to be able to get it right again.
Yeah.
I was like, man's got a good point.
Well,
No,
they did
I
that
agree,
2 games
like-
in a row. They kicked Jeff Leach off of Ghost, and then they kicked Woods off Woods.
Man, that's sad.
Cutting corners somewhere.
Like, because like I remember, I grew up with those games, and like Woods was always my favorite. That's super sad. I hate that.
That's why I started wearing bandanas, because I thought it was fucking cool.
Yeah.
We might could get you in touch with.
It's pretty cool.
We might can introduce you to old Burns if you want.
If I do,
Mr. Sergeant Woods, I guess it is.
If I go through with this like COD lore video, I may have to hit you up on that one.
I have his number. I can hook you up with it.
He's super laid
Very
back, man.
cool. Wow, very nice. Cool.
Yeah, I had a great time with him.
Oh, yeah.
He had a lot to offer for us, you know. He's a very wise dude. I enjoyed that podcast. This has been a great one too, man. I think it's gonna be one for the ages right here, dude.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us, Wendigoon. I think
I had a fantastic time. Thank you all
When you
so
go
much
down-
for having me.
When you go down the alien rabbit hole, I really, really want to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
I
don't
really
worry.
want to get some opinions from you on that.
Oh, I feel like Josh. I feel like this is the start of several conversations.
I think so too, bud. I
We
think
didn't
so
even
too.
get to talk about donut theory. We didn't even get to blow their minds with our
Oh,
own
you're
conspiracy
right,
theory.
bro. You're right. We did not. Man, I forgot. That's going to be a whole nother like 2 episodes.
Well,
We got to blow
luckily
their
for
minds
us,
with our own conspiracy theory.
we don't ever mind having a good guest back, man. So
Of
I would
course.
love to
I
have you on
appreciate
again anytime. And yeah, I'm sure I'll be messaging you on Twitter later tonight or tomorrow or something because that stuff that we were talking about that you've already made videos on, I'm starting to wonder if that might have something to do with outer space and stuff. We'll talk about that some other time.
It's fun stuff. It's fun stuff.
All right. Thanks for having me.
I love
being
watching
on,
Josh's. Yeah, of course. I love watching Josh's brain melt over the course of this episode.
It was
But
stewing.
thank you all so much. Yeah, thank you all so much for having me. I've had a fantastic time. You guys are great.
Yeah, plug all your
Thank you all
socials.
so much. I got. I'm Wendigoon on Twitter and YouTube. That's all I got. I will say that I am currently helping promote this movie called SCP Heretic, which is done by the guys who did SCP Overlord. It's going to be really cool, and they're currently running the Kickstarter for it. So check out Heretic on YouTube. So yeah.
Excellent.
Check out Wendigoon. Check out Toner microphones that are down in the description below. Thank you to them for making this show possible. And I think real shit's been talked. We'll see you fucking next time.